A-plusers, welcome back to a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC, television, and movie news, streaming live for you guys today. We got an incredible show for you guys that we're going to be breaking down 6 incredible topics, some honorable mentions, and of course, your guys' live viewer questions. We got a huge Spider-Man television series update for you guys we're going to be diving into today. We even have a little bit more of a preview for Star Wars The Acolyte as June gets a little bit closer, a Terminator Zero animated series first look, and a ton more, guys. So we'll certainly see you on the other side. Let's get it. Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to another episode of A-Plus Hero Report, going live today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter as well, guys. Thank you so much for certainly joining us here. Sorry we're like 7 minutes late with kicking this show off, though. I had to go ahead and drop off my little boy at his grandfather's, so running a little bit late today. But we appreciate each and every one of you guys for certainly joining us here today, man. I'm looking forward to this show. Again, we got 6 incredible topics. I think we're going to get into a little Spider-Man talk, some Chris Pratt is actually in the news this week, discussing maybe juggling some MCU and DCU. We're going to talk a little bit more about that Acolyte as we get closer to its release date this June. We're going to dive a little bit more into Lord of the Rings also, that we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, but we got more details for you guys this week. Another possible John Wick spinoff that you guys might be excited about, and a first look at an animated series for Terminator that I think you guys are going to get pretty pumped about, man. So I'm excited for it, man. And of course, some honorable mentions in your guys' live viewer questions. But what's going on, Stu? Good to see you, Stuart. How you doing today, man? I heard you were on your 3rd cup of coffee today.
I am on my 3rd cup of coffee. Yeah, no, it's been a very man, how would I describe this week? Because it hasn't been a bad week. It's just been a kind of worrying week because it is so slow at the theaters. My hours have been like dropped significantly, and I think I have enough to get by with rent. It's just everything else is going to be like kind of a challenge the next week or two. So it's been chill because of that, though. I've been doing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. I've been playing that game again, and that game is super amazing. If any of you guys haven't played Baldur's Gate, or if any of you guys are D&D fans or looking to get into D&D, but the whole concept of Dungeons and Dragons seems way too complicated, this is a perfect starting point for sure.
I don't think I've ever played it before, but I'm thinking we need to get our Twitch page back up, man, on video games a little bit more. So, in the process of you playing, man, if you ever want to jump on Twitch and play for some of our viewers, feel free to, man. We'd love that.
I think after I do a playthrough of Baldur's Gate, I might. That way I can do like kind of a fresh new character for Twitch.
Ooh, I like it.
I've also been kind of considering, because I play this game all the time on my phone, and it is on my computer. I just don't play it often on there, but I've been considering playing Master Duel on Twitch, which is basically a Yu-Gi-Oh but digital.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. If you guys are interested in that, let us know in the comment section for sure. But yeah, anytime, Stuart, you want to play some video games on the Twitch channel, feel free to, man. I would love to add that content for sure. But I'm sorry your work's going so bad. Is it not so bad, but just so slow for you right now? Is it because like tips and stuff usually come through when you hand out like the food and things like that? Do they do that?
Oh yeah. Well, the tips, we do like kind of a share, like a whole share pool, which normally would suck, but given the fact that we have like, in some of our auditoriums like 300 seats and everything, it actually does. I think it's actually a good way to do it at a theater like ours, instead of individual tips. I think the tip pool actually works pretty well, but the problem is just like not enough people are coming, I guess. My assumption maybe is just that the movies we're getting are available at other theaters, and because of that, people want to pay the less expensive option, because we are kind of an expensive theater in terms of ticket sales, and not to mention it's like nearly impossible to just sit through a movie at one of our theaters and not order some food, because it's there, it's tempting, plus the people sitting next to you are going to be ordering food, so you're going to be tempted to order food too. So yeah, I think it's just because we're getting movies that aren't as exclusive to our theater and are at a bunch of other theaters in San Francisco. People are just kind of choosing to go to those theaters instead. But I'm not 100% sure.
Gotcha. Any recommendations? Any movie recommendations for people?
Oh, with what's currently out? Man, I got to be honest. I actually haven't been going to the movies as often as I usually do this past month. So I guess I am part of the problem of why movie sales aren't doing very good.
I did go and see Fallout, the Fall Guy, this past Monday, I believe. I had a really fun time with it, man. Have you seen it?
Not yet. I've seen parts of it, and it looks like it's an absolute blast. I think like the couple of scenes that I've walked in on, looks like Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt just have like
Oh,
hilarious banter between the two of them.
oh man, the chemistry between those two is intoxicating, man. I'm just like, can you all be a couple in real life? But I mean, she's clearly I'm sure they're both clearly married, but they have great chemistry, man. But to me, I found it funny. I thought it was a really great callback, almost to like 80s 90s action films, you know. There are times I don't necessarily know if the story or the dialogue like hits, because sometimes it feels like it's a little bit sort of too on the nose, but it seems like it's a film that has fun and knows what type of film it wants to be. I thought the soundtrack was incredible too. Some incredible stunt work. I just thought it was a really great homage to just the stunt performers behind the scenes for sure. Like they really go and showcase just what they're capable of doing. I think if there's any movie that's a really big push for stunt work being part of the Oscars, The Fall Guy is like is definitely the push for that. So we'll see. But if you check it out, let me know your thoughts, man. But I had a fun time with it.
Definitely, yeah.
Before we get into our honorable mentions, let's give some shout outs to the people that are joining us live today. We got 4 people over on Twitter, 4 people over on YouTube right now. Look, if you're watching us live in the over on YouTube, do us a big favor, man. Hit that like button. Definitely certainly helps out. But let's see who's actually joining us today. We got Enrique. Says, hey, I just saw the official trailer for the 2nd season of Transformers Earthspark, and it will arrive on Paramount Plus June 24th. I don't think I saw the first season, but have you heard anything about it, Stuart, at all?
I have not, but I'm looking it up on YouTube right now because
Um,
yeah, every now and then they'll do like a new Transformers show that like the one they did on Netflix that was kind of like a trilogy, and they do a good job with like bringing in old fans but still keeping it like kid friendly for the younger kids to be introduced to Transformers.
yeah,
Called
absolutely.
Earth Sparking.
He said they released the first clip of Transformers Earthspark Season 2 during the screening of the 40th anniversary Transformers with the original series at the cinemas. That's right, it is the 40th anniversary. I believe Will and them might have talked about it over on Scene and Nerd this past week a little bit. But yeah. Enrique also says Nickelodeon just released the first official promo for the 2024 Kids Choice Awards. It'll be live in July with collaboration of SpongeBob's 25th anniversary. God,
Oh,
I'm
nice.
feeling old, man. I'm so
That show
old.
has been around for 25 years. That's crazy.
That's so crazy.
And I can
Uh,
still probably quote like the first 3 seasons like way like so my roommate, she likes to put on SpongeBob every now and it's scary how well I can quote like so many episodes of this show in the first 3 seasons. Like there are some episodes where I probably have the entire script memorized.
oh wow, damn, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, 15-minute episodes, so it's not like, full length 30-minute episodes, but still, yeah. I was
Um,
obsessed as a kid.
Shout out to Ram Jam for certainly coming through. He says the X-Men 97 season finale was so insane. The amount of
Mhm.
cameos we got, who's who. Did you finally catch up, Stuart?
I did. Yeah, I
Yes.
watched the X-Men season finale 2 days ago. Yeah, no, I'm blown away by this show. It's it might be my new favorite animated superhero show. Like, and that's saying something because Batman the animated series is amazing. The Justice League animated series is, something I have so many fond memories on. And while I watched the original 90s X-Men cartoon, I didn't have that attachment that I had to other like DC cartoons growing up. But this show, the X-Men 97, might actually be my new favorite superhero animated show. It was that good.
You know, we don't hand out a lot of A pluses here at Hero Report. I think the closest we might have gotten is like an A minus. But I probably, I think I said this when I did my review. I was like, I probably am going to give this an A plus, man. Like I was really impressed with it. I mean, there's a couple things falter. Like maybe one episode I didn't really care for, like maybe half of an episode, and that was the Jubilee and was it Mojo or Mondo episode? But
Yeah, though the video game one, right?
yeah, but then the other half of that was the Storm and Forge storyline, which kind of helped bolster it a little bit for me. So aside from that aspect of the of this season, along with maybe some of the really quick pacing in the first 2 or 3 episodes, it eventually leveled itself out, and I thought was really taking its time to create an amazing story arc and really connect everything towards the end. So I really don't have too many complaints about the season. So it's probably going to be one of my few sort of A pluses that we give out around here. But if you guys do want to check out our review, I did go ahead and post it up on our YouTube channel, episode 10 review, the finale. If you've been watching the show, go ahead and check it out, man. Check it out. But yeah,
Something
all episodes are available. So if you want to binge it, feel free to binge it.
Oh yes. So something with the ending is I'm both relieved and disappointed they didn't pull the trigger on this. But I thought when the asteroid like vanished, I thought it was going to be a setup to put those X-Men into Secret Wars, the MCU movie. But then we get confirmation of where they're at, and I'm like, okay, never mind. That's not what they're doing. I both respect them for not, forcing that tie-in in there. I'm also disappointed because that would have been really cool.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Who else we got in here? Marcelino says, "Hey guys, legendary B movie director Roger Corman sadly passed away. Yeah, that's terrible stuff. Yeah, for sure." He also says, "I saw Abigail, and while I enjoyed it, I wish they spoiled the vampire aspect for the marketing. That way, the twist would hit harder, similar to how Barbarian used its marketing." And then he says, I also saw Challengers. It was a pretty good film. I heard Disney and Marvel might be trying to sue the leakers who leaked the information on the upcoming MCU projects. Look, that's what happens when you've got, movies that were set to go ahead and release this year and you're pushing them all the way back to next year. Now you got all this marketing and promotion and material that you had out there just waiting to be pushed out, man. So, that's what happens. But yeah, it looks like Marvel's trying to sue some people for that. I'm glad you liked Abigail, though. I had a fun time with Abigail too. And then Ram Jam says, I heard Blake Sheldon's remake of the Fall Guys theme, noting nothing beats the original with Lee Majors.
I didn't even know it was a remake.
Yeah, me either. I wasn't too familiar with it, but I did love the music in that movie. But all right, guys. Yeah, thanks to everybody for certainly joining us here today. Look, remember, at the end of the day, guys, when we talk about these topics, these are just our A+ opinions. We always want to know yours. So feel free, wherever you're watching us from, if you have any comments, questions, if you want to jump in on a conversation, leave your thoughts known in the comment section for sure. If you want to help out the channel and support us monetarily, we do not have any sponsors or anything like that. We grow with your guys' certain help. If you go ahead and drop a super chat, we'll definitely stop what we're doing. We'll bring your comment up first and focus solely on yours. And then if you can help out monetarily, if you want to help us out in any other way, hit that like button, man. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Share these videos. It all helps for sure. But Stuart, you ready to go ahead and get into our main? Oh, you know what? Hey, the girlfriend's here.
Honorable mentions yet?
Girlfriend's here today. What's up? Good to see you. Thank you, Cindy, for certainly coming through, man. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into our first segment of the day. And we got honorable mentions. We're going with a black and white theme today, if you guys can't tell, in honor of Spider-Man Noir being our main topic this week. But we got a couple of honorable mentions. Stuart's gonna wait on his.
No, I got a few others. You can do your
another
one.
Okay.
But I'm gonna rapid because I got 3, so I'm just gonna rapid fire through them.
Go for it.
Oh, awesome. So first one is South Park coming back with a brand new special. South Park. I think the end of obesity or something like that, but it looks like it's another episode where Eric's mom is trying to get him to lose weight. So those always lead to some funny gags. Last time it led to him being a quote unquote drug dealer, but like in actuality he was selling like candy to kids at fat camp. It was a funny episode. The other honorable mention. So this is a really, really niche thing that I'm kind of excited for. But in fact, I actually think Indy was on the show the first time I talked about it. So I don't even think you were here when I brought it up first. But there's a YouTube series I've been keeping up with. called Celebrity Yu-Gi-Oh, and what they do is they take like it's all like actually written, so it's not like a fully AI series, but it is like an AI series where they use AI image generated images along with AI voices, but they use gameplay from the video game Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel, and they basically make it a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with celebrities and fictional characters, and just it's basically like kind of like wrestling, because there's also like some bizarre lore that happens in between every match, and it's just kind of brilliant. So the next episode premieres tomorrow, and it is going to be Joe Biden versus Ultron. So that's just to give you a little taste of how weird these matches get. The previous match was Star Lord versus Vader, when Vader had previously beaten Dr. Phil, and Star Lord had beaten Kanye West. So again, just to show you how bizarre these matches get. Super fun. Highly recommend watching the series. Last honorable mention I want to give, definitely got to give a shout out to one of my favorite shows out there currently, which is Smiling Friends. So it's been back for a few episodes, and episode 1 introduced us to a character known as Gimli, who was like kind of a old school video game character. He was designed to look like he came from like the Nintendo 64 or the PlayStation 1, kind of like in that era. So he looks like he's either made out of 32 or 64 bits, like somewhere in between there. So funny character, but what's so great about it is that now the internet has seemed to commit to this bit where if you look up Gimli, you'll get history videos about Gimli as if he's actually been like a video game character that's existed since the 80s. It's like you have people on the internet that want to change history and pretend that Gimli isn't like a made-up character for a cartoon, that he's always been a video game character from everyone's childhoods. I don't know why this meme has come to be, but I'm glad that it exists. And from now on, I'm going to be gaslighting everyone into thinking that Gimli has always been my favorite video game character.
I love it, man. I love it. I gotta check out that matchup though. That's Biden versus Ultron. That sounds hilarious to me.
Yep, tomorrow I believe at 3 o'clock, and just look up Celebrity Yu-Gi-Oh. You will go right to the channel, because it's the most niche thing that I am into, but I freaking love it.
I love it, man. I love it. A couple other quick shout outs for honorable mentions. Superman and Lois's final season gets a fall spot this year on the CW. So we can expect the final season of Superman and Lois to drop this fall on the CW. So mark your calendars, guys. It's been a long wait for sure, but it's finally here. Secondly, where did it go? Shogun. We talked about it. Shogun re-signing its main actor in Hiroyuki Sanada. They not only are they now officially doing a second season, but according to Hollywood Reporter, they're also doing a third season as well. So I guess there's more books within this story to certainly be adapted. So I was under the impression maybe they were going to be doing sort of original storytelling, but they may have more that they can actually adapt for this show. So we are getting a season 2 and 3 for Shogun.
Nice. I did finally start watching it. And it's like perfect, because it takes place during this time that of Japan history that really does feel like the perfect kind of Game of Thrones setup, where everyone's like trying to get power, because no one's allowed to take power until the son of the emperor like grows to be an adult. So it's such a fascinating like kind of concept that I don't know how much, because that setup is definitely actual historical, but everything in between that, I have no idea how much is just made up from the book or for the TV show.
I gotta check it out. Everybody's been talking about it, honestly. And so I really need to talk about it. I need to check it out for myself for sure. Another quick thing. It sounds as though Venom: The Last Dance. And I don't know, anytime I say this title, I think of Save the Last Dance. I'm going to need some memes, guys. If y'all can make some Save the Last Dance memes with Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and Venom, please do so. But according to the Sony Pictures chairman and CEO, Tim Rothman, apparently this is going to be the last Venom film. He says the third and last Venom is going to be huge. So I guess they're calling it quits after this. So I'm not expecting a fourth film with that particular take of his. So expect this last Venom film to be the end of this trilogy for sure.
Maybe it'll be that rare time where the third one is the only good movie in the trilogy.
I mean, man, that would be fantastic for me. You know, again, while I didn't care for the second one, I think the second one, and then seeing like Morbius and Madam Web has really come to make me appreciate the first one a little bit more. But I'm still not a fan of it. We got 28 years later is back in the news because apparently Cillian Murphy is in fact set to return.
Sweet.
Yeah, Tom Rothman once again speaking with Deadline said yes, he is returning, but in a surprising way and in a way that grows. Let me put it that way. He says this is Danny at his best, combined with a very commercial genre like we had with Edgar Wright and Baby Driver. Sometimes when you put a real signature director into a commercial arena, it elevates it. So he has in fact confirmed that Cillian Murphy, who just clearly won Best Actor too for Oppenheimer, is going to be returning for 28 years later. And I think this does nothing but boost this franchise even more, man. I think people are going to want to see this even more now.
This means it either has a bigger budget than the first movie, or the entire budget is going into hiring Cillian Murphy for a cameo.
I mean, who knows? Maybe he's, you know, I know he's a big star now, but you know, Danny and them got him his start. You know, I think that was like one of his first films, if I'm not mistaken, 28 Days Later. So maybe he's giving them like the best friend discount or something like that, you know, like, hey, you got me started. Let me cut off 50% of what I normally make for you guys to help out. But who knows? Who knows? Mm-hmm. We also did get ourselves some MCU Marvel updates in regards to upcoming television shows. First and foremost, look, we got ourselves a brand new Daredevil logo. Actually, now that I think about it, Stuart, when I look at this logo and I look at like our can I bring up our background on here? You know, they got the city skyline like we do at the bottom of our logo. So you got to see the New York City skyline here in the Daredevil Born Again logo.
You're saying we should sue Marvel?
Yeah, I think we should sue Marvel for copyright here.
I gotta double check, but I am pretty sure that's similar to what they did in the first Daredevil series on Netflix, but it's been a minute since I watched it. So if you're right, if this wasn't in Daredevil, I'm down. Let's sue Marvel together.
We also got a new logo for Ironheart.
Oh, that show is still coming.
The show is still coming. Yes, Stuart. I think I do believe that they gave some release dates. I'll have to try and pull up the release dates here briefly. Let me find the not like official release dates, but like a time frame as to when we could certainly expect them. But we did get ourselves some brand new logos along with the official title for the upcoming Agatha series, Agatha All Along.
See, a title like that makes me think this is going to be a show where they tie her into every Marvel movie that's come out through phase 4 and 5 and try to say how she is indirectly responsible for all the unexplainable things that happens, basically using her as a way to clean up all the plot holes that have happened so far.
Oh yeah, that maybe. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and share this audio with you guys, but this is how they revealed the title.
Who's been messing up everything?
It's been Agatha all along.
See, they're throwing her on the bus or saying, hey, you don't like phase 4 and 5? It's because of Agatha. That's what the show is for. The show is to just throw Agatha on the under the bus and make her take all the responsibility.
So we got two episode premiere beginning September 18th, 2024. So we are in fact getting it here. We're about maybe 4 months away from this. They are starting to do their promotional rounds, talking a little bit more about this series itself. I think Kathryn Hahn, I just saw her like on a red carpet discussing this. So September 18th, 2 episode premiere. You know, I'm starting to think, Stuart, that the all those leaks of new titles and stuff for the series itself, I'm starting to believe that they may actually be like episode titles, or I would be curious if they actually turned them into episode titles.
all the previous leaks that they had, like House of Agatha and Coven
Was it
or
like
something.
Darkhold
Yeah.
Diaries type of thing?
Yeah, because they've had 3 other titles before this, so I could see that. I could see those being episode titles.
So we'll see what that winds up turning into. So yeah, September 18th, you can expect that. Again, Daredevil Born Again is actually set to drop March of 2025. So we are getting that in March of next year. And then Ironheart, according to them, is just scheduled. It just says it's also coming in 2025. So this may continue to work out the way that Kevin Feige and them have kind of recently talked about, the idea of maybe 2 television series a year. Whether or not we get more besides that, who certainly knows? But it sounds like Daredevil and Ironheart will be our 2025 series. Now, I think they're still working on things like Wonder Man, Vision Quest. I'm kind of curious if they will push all that stuff back to 2026, or maybe like Kevin Feige said, hey, we want to do 2 movies, but in an emergency, maybe we'll do 3. I do wonder if they try and sneak in a 3rd one at some point in time for next year, though.
Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna say it. Vision Quest, I'm in no hurry for. So if they don't want to release that in 2025, 2026, that's fine.
Yeah, I can't think,
you don't have to release it either.
yeah, I can't think of any other shows that they might have in production right now besides those 2. But maybe I'm tripping. If I'm wrong, guys, let me know. Our honorable mention section might go a little bit long here, but I do have 3 more that I want us to talk about, Stuart. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for any of these, but The Rings of Power just dropped a brand new trailer this past week. It is in fact set for season 2 to drop August 29th. I went and watched this trailer again today, Stuart. Guess how many views this trailer has?
How many?
10 million. 10 million views in about 4 or 5 days.
Nice.
I think that's saying something, that people are definitely in tune with it. Like, I don't know whether or not they're super pumped or not, but I think the fact that so many people watched it, there's got to be some level of anticipation for a second season. Have you checked out the trailer at all by any chance?
I did. Looks like it's going to be entertaining. I think because the first season wasn't bad, it just wasn't like mind blowing. It wasn't Game of Thrones like level like people were hoping for, but it wasn't bad. So I think because of that, people are going to be tuning into season 2 just in hopes that it gets hopes to see it like improve basically.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Star Trek: The Next Generation. That show is super iconic, and it took them 3 seasons to actually like figure out how to make it good.
Oh wow. Yeah, I am really anticipating this, man. I thought the trailer itself was relatively good. I did talk about it in we also did do a trailer review for this on the YouTube channel if you haven't checked it out yet. But I'm excited for this, man. This is not the Hal Brand that I remember seeing from season 1. So to kind of see his transformation from Hal Brand into Sauron on here is pretty remarkable. I really love the new character design for him, honestly. But it looks really promising. It looks like they've made it a little bit darker. They've upped the ante action wise. But I almost think like when I look back at this trailer and I look at season 1 also, I do think season 1 is probably a really great sort of a building block to lead into a second season. I mean, they do have a lot of characters, but I do think the character buildup certainly was really well handled. And so I do think maybe a rewatch for season 1 might be in my cards to go ahead and certainly get properly ready for a season 2. But it looks like they've taken some of the criticisms from season 1 and they've upped the ante, as you said, for season 2 here. So I thought it was a good first look at the new season for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We also wind up getting a trailer for Wicked. This movie is set to go ahead and drop this Thanksgiving. We have had a previous teaser trailer, but I think this is the first official trailer that wind up dropping this week. Did you check this one out by any chance?
The trailer, no, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in watching it. I love the Wicked Broadway show. Even though technically I never saw the Broadway version of it, I just saw the San Francisco version of Wicked, which was freaking, I loved it.
Yeah, I feel like everybody that I've talked to that has seen the Broadway play or the any play version of this has absolutely loved it. I haven't had the opportunity to check it out, but I gotta tell you, man, everything that I'm everything that I've seen from this movie literally gives me goosebumps. Like I literally get some level of chills, or it touches me emotionally for some reason. I don't know if it's just the rousing music, or if I can just kind of tell that there's a really great story here. But I really love this trailer. I thought this trailer was fantastic to really show you the relationship between these two characters in here. You know, what could be kind of going on behind the scenes, in the sense of, you know, the Wicked Witch, if you will, very much being quite powerful, her getting the opportunity to meet the wizard for the first time, her building up a relationship or friendship with Galinda, the good witch. I think there's going to be some really great twists and turns here, and certainly an emotional ride. And I think these two are going to give it their all, man. And so I would not expect, I would not be surprised if this movie just kicks the door down when we get to Thanksgiving, for sure. I think this is a perfect time for it.
Mm-hmm. I think at the risk of sounding like every neckbeard on the internet, I will say my one worry about it is I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Ariana Grande, but you know, who knows? She might surprise me in this movie.
I think she will, man. I think she will. They released a really great behind the scenes featurette the day before they dropped this trailer, and you really get to see just how connected Ariana is to Galinda. Apparently it was one of her favorite characters growing up as a kid. She's watched this movie a bajillion times, and so I do think, just based off of her connection with the character, I think she's gonna put in a marvelous performance in here. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Okay.
And then last but not least, Ultraman Rising, y'all, the Netflix animated series, or animated film, excuse me, set to go ahead and drop. Netflix and Ultraman, or Subaraya Productions, have really been tag teaming a lot in order to go ahead and give us more and more Ultraman stuff. This is their next installment here. They had also a really great interview with the director of this film, talking about how this was initially supposed to be for, like, this story itself was initially meant to be for another character, or maybe an original character. And I think maybe Netflix or somebody ended up pitching it to Subaraya Productions, and they absolutely loved the story. And they were like, can we just make this into sort of an Ultraman kind of movie? And the girl that was the lady that directed and wrote it was like, absolutely, you know. So I guess it was flexible enough to change a couple things here or there to certainly fit an Ultraman story. But I think the fact that Subaraya Productions has been on board with this from the very start and allowed her to kind of tell her story, there is a level of confidence that I have in this, despite the idea that some people might be like, Ultraman raising a baby, like, oh, this is just going to be kiddie stuff. If you check out the trailer itself, man, it looks like this has got a lot of heart, a lot of great sort of humor, but really probably very much focuses on Ultraman and the idea of him having to raise somebody, and maybe even his own personal relationship with his father too. So action looks great, animation looks really fun. I'm kind of excited for this one. This one snuck up on me, but I really enjoyed this trailer.
Same. I think this is the type of story they would have loved to have told back in the original run of Ultraman. They just couldn't, because, you know, every episode had to have a very specific status quo. And not to mention, there was always that, like, kind of theme of, you know, even when they wanted to make it work with humans and monsters, sometimes there was just always an outside force that would just make it impossible. And obviously the biggest thing is budget. But this does thematically with how Ultraman, you know, it's one of the things that, like, you could kind of take the wrong way, but I personally choose not to take it the wrong way. But it's always a show where the Science Patrol tries to make the relationship with humans and monsters work. It just never does, unfortunately. So I think, you know, with this actually feels a lot more in line with those themes. You know, him trying to, like, rather than seeing this monster as a threat, seeing it for what it is, a little child growing up in a world with no parents, and him, you know, trying to, you know, take care of it, which I think is incredibly sweet.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, guys. June 14th, it drops over on Netflix. Maybe we'll do a review for Ultraman Rising for you guys. But I definitely plan on checking it out. But if you haven't checked out the trailer, go ahead and do yourselves a favor, man. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised. It is currently up on our Facebook page, or you can find it over on YouTube as well. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Let's see here. Oh, shout out to Blossom also for certainly coming through. Says, geez, oh Molly, that many views, talking about the Rings of Power, 10 million views for that trailer so far. Who else we had? There's somebody else that wound up joining us. Johnny says, hope X-Men 97 gets a season 2. According to the gentleman in charge of Marvel TV and animation, it is currently in post-production. I believe they are currently editing it. So when does that mean it's going to be dropping? That I don't know, but we are planning on getting the season 2 for sure. Maybe sometime late this year, or maybe even 2025 itself. What you got?
Huh? Oh no, just definitely excited.
Nathan, what's up, Nathan? Good to see you, man. He also says Agatha is all I want to see, but the young actors might ruin this. We'll see, man. I don't know. Catherine Hahn is pretty good. I've enjoyed some of the cast members that they've put together so far. I think Aubrey Plaza is in that series, if I'm not mistaken. I love me some Aubrey Plaza. So I'm really fascinated to see what this is going to turn out to be. Again, Agatha all along is not a series that I certainly asked for. So I really have no expectations about this series kind of going into it. But the fact that they continued along with this show and felt it was certainly worthy of a story to be told, we'll definitely see. We'll see if it feels sort of like WandaVision or a completely different series in and of itself.
Yeah, because before they announced all the other all the other Marvel TV spinoffs, before we really got an extent of how deep in the Marvel universe they wanted to go, this was one of the first announcements they made where I'm like, really, that character? Okay.
Marcelino says, I saw the comment section on Rings of Power season 2 trailer and people bombing it in the comments, giving sarcastic and gaslighting compliments. I mean, like, to each their own. There's always going to be a group of people that certainly, I mean, God, the backlash for season 1 just before it even dropped. I mean, when we got the character posters and stuff, I don't remember if you guys recall that, but man, people were just bashing this show already before it even started. So look, that type of stuff is certainly going to stick with you. Same thing with the Acolyte, bro. Like, the Acolyte right now, it's like almost like any piece of information that drops. I mean, my God, it's just, people are just so quick, man, so quick. We got a quick shot of the light whip, I think, in the most recent Acolyte trailer, and man, people are just shitting all over it, bro. Shitting all over it. We haven't even seen anything yet.
I don't get the rush, the hate that fans are like rushing to with the Acolyte, because like, I'm not even saying it's going to be amazing. It might be bad, but like, I don't know, what have we gotten so far from the Acolyte that indicates that it's going to be bad for sure? I would have said that with Andor, there was more to suggest that show was going to flop way more than the Acolyte. And of course, Andor ended up being like probably my favorite live action Star Wars show. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, I think I just don't see what fans are like disappointed by from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, even Christopher, what's up, Christopher? Good to see you in here, man. He's usually in our Discord. He's like, Acolyte doesn't look great. I mean, I'm kind of curious as to like what doesn't look great about the Acolyte. Like, what have you seen then? Like, what have you seen from the brief trailers to make you think that it doesn't look great? He says, although it looks better than the book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan.
So, okay, this actually bit of trivia really shocked me because, this is coming from someone that I think Obi-Wan is probably my least favorite out of all the Star Wars shows, right? Okay. Apparently, it's George Lucas's favorite.
Yeah, I read that. Pablo Hidalgo wanted to give him an interview saying that he had heard that George Lucas was a really big fan of Obi-Wan series. I don't know if that should be surprising to some people, but it probably does surprise some people. Why do you think that is, though?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's like a story he himself wanted to tell. If I had to guess, it's a story he wanted to tell, but never got a chance to after the series ended. I think just him like being able to finally see that like gap being filled in, I think maybe that was what he appreciated about it. It's hard to say. I really would like one of these days love to see an interview with George Lucas where he talks about like all the Star Wars projects that he's seen. And I think I mentioned this before on the show. More than anything, I want to hear George Lucas's thoughts on Andor, because again, my personal favorite live action Star Wars show.
Yeah, I would love to pick his brain and just see how he's thought about some of the Disney Plus stuff that's dropped. Marcelino says, I have mixed feelings about Obi-Wan, but my least favorite is Boba Fett. I feel you there. But guys, with honorable mentions out of the way, We got Sam. What's up, Sam? Appreciate you coming through. Also, he says Netflix Atlas got a good cast: Simu Liu, Mark Strong, and Jennifer Lopez. I do like Mark Strong. I haven't had the opportunity to check out the film. Have you checked out Netflix's Atlas? Is it dropped? That's dropped already, right?
I don't know.
I believe
This is
it.
my first time hearing of it.
I believe it has. I believe it has dropped. But I don't know. It doesn't look super appealing to me. But maybe I'll try and check it out. But all right, guys. With honorable mentions out of the way, let's get into our main topics, man. You ready to go ahead and tackle this with me, Stuart?
Always.
So as we dive a little bit further into the world of Sony and their Marvel characters that they have the rights to, they have themselves the movie side and they have themselves the television side. The television side of things is certainly being run by Lord and Miller, most notably known from their time over at the Lego movie, Into the Spider-Verse and whatnot. They definitely been doing their thing on the animated front, and they are currently trying to build up the Spider-Man television universe in live action form over on streaming as well. And so while they're certainly hard at work, this week we actually wind up getting some really great updates in regards to I'm actually going to talk about 3 different projects here in regards to what's going on for Spider-Man, the animation side, and most importantly, live action. And as you guys saw at the very top of this particular video, Nicolas Cage officially is going to be joining the Spider-Man Noir live action series. Amazon Prime this week wind up giving us an official announcement that he is in fact going to be joining this series, as they have admittedly let us know that yes, a Spider-Man Noir live action series is in fact happening. What I still do find interesting about this, Stuart, is one of the things that we talked about in our maybe sometime last year, if I'm not mistaken. And I also talked about this in a recent video that I wind up doing. The idea that when it comes to Spider-Man Noir, if you guys recall, back in February of last year, the brief synopsis from some of the sources that we had gotten was letting us know that one, this was probably going to take place in a completely separate universe, and two, it may not be Peter Parker at all. And I think that kind of left some of us scratching our heads in the sense of like, well, Nicolas Cage did the voice for Spider-Man Noir, and I'm pretty sure that was a Peter Parker variant. So I wasn't quite sure what route that they were certainly going. But then fast forward to February of this year, and we had heard some rumors and speculation that Nicolas Cage was in talks to go ahead and reprise his role as Spider-Man Noir. So it definitely made us question, like, what direction are they certainly going when it comes to this series? Well, Stuart, we have our answer now, man. Let's go ahead and bring this up. This comes to us from Empire Magazine, letting us know that Nicolas Cage confirmed to play Spider-Man Noir in a live action in Prime Video series. So this is in fact happening. It says, put on your fedora and lightly billowed cloak and listen to what those spidey senses are telling you. Could it possibly be true? Are we really getting a live action Spider-Man Noir with none other than Nicolas Cage stepping up to solve early 20th century mysteries with bonus spider powers? Somehow we're ending up in the timeline where this is in fact real. Prime Video is stepping up to produce Noir. That's the name of the series, Noir, a live action Spider-Man series, and Cage is officially taking the role. So they give the synopsis here. It says, the story of an aging and down on his luck private investigator in the 1930s New York, who was forced to grapple with his past life as the city's one and only superhero. So it's also coming to MGM Plus app and Prime Video as well. So Nicolas Cage, man, he's going to be picking up the mantle once again. And hey, we got a commercial here. And tackling this character. It also goes on to say, Cage famously voiced Spider-Man Noir to incredible effect in the animated feature from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It says... Oren Uzel and Steve Lightfoot are set to act as showrunners, while Phil Lord and Christopher Miller and Amy Pascal are all on board as producers. It says expanding the Marvel Universe with Noir's uniquely special opportunity. And we are honored to bring this series to our global Prime Video customers. The extremely talented Nicolas Cage is an ideal choice for our new superhero, and the accomplished producing team with Lord and Miller and Amy Pascal is dedicated to expanding this franchise in the most authentic way. So, yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted on any new updates in regards to casting that winds up dropping for this series also. But Stuart, let me start off with you, man. What's your excitement level for this happening? Any initial thoughts?
You know, it's really funny. Every now and then I get like, I'll have like an idea in my head of something that I'm like, oh, this would be cool. But I also have these ideas knowing that, oh yeah, no, this would never actually happen. This is either too good to be true or just, you know, practicality wise, it just doesn't seem like something that Hollywood or someone would be interested in. So after the first Spider-Verse movie came out, one of my thoughts was, how cool would it be to have Nicolas Cage reprising this role in a live-action noir series that's played totally straight, you know, but it's like the same character, but now we're actually seeing it through his world, that kind of a thing. I thought that would be funny, but it's something that we will never get because there's no way like studios would see profit in that. Here I am. Not only am I wrong, not only are we getting that, we're getting that in the form of a TV show. It blows my mind, honestly. This is just one of those wacky ideas that I feel like if I was working in the industry, I would pitch to someone knowing that it was going to get turned down immediately afterwards. But here it is, like actually happening. So part of me wants to be like worried because Sony, you know, obviously, and they haven't had the best track record with the exception of, you know, their Spider-Verse movies. But on the other hand, holy crap, they literally read my mind and gave me exactly what I wanted. So, you know, I will definitely be checking the show out. But as of now, I'm like cautiously optimistic because again, it's what I want in a Spider-Man. It's something that I like literally wanted after I saw, Into the Spider-Verse. Sorry, I kept saying Spider-Verse because I couldn't remember if it was Into or Beyond. But yeah, Into was the first. So Into the Spider-Verse. It's just, it's both amazing and worrying at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely understand the trepidation for sure when it comes to the idea of Sony really handling anything. I mean, even Nathan in here says, I'm sure Marvel fans will ish all over this. I think this could be something really cool and unique. Hell, it's Nicolas Cage, though I do believe Sony needs better creatives and better directors. And so, yeah, your caution is certainly understandable. For me, on the other hand, man, call me a believer, bro. Call me a believer. I don't want to say my expectations are high, but I definitely have some belief in this. And some people will probably say, "Well, Adam, how can you believe this?" But when it comes to the movies, you pretty much shit all over the Venom stuff, Morbius, Madam Web. You're probably not even looking that forward to Kraven the Hunter. Look, when it comes to Sony films, I am certainly concerned. But you tell me, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller are attached to a project as executive producer, knowing that they sort of have their grasp on the Spider-Man television series side of things. And I'm gonna eat it up, man. I'm gonna eat it up. I almost feel like anything that they sort of touch really sort of works out. And I think while I'm sure they probably have been executive producers on some of the Sony pictures, I think that they probably have more control in the sense of the direction that they want their television series to go, probably have an idea as to this type of stories that they certainly want to tell, and I think are in a really prime position to bring on the right creatives for this project. And look, I can't lie. I am a sucker for set time period pieces, so the idea that we're going back to the 30s is really intriguing to me. I think Nicolas Cage is, aside from like Denzel Washington, I think Nicolas Cage is probably one of the best actors alive right now. I think this guy can literally shape and mold himself into any particular role that he certainly wants and is certainly capable of it. And the fact that he already drew inspiration from classic detectives like Humphrey Bogart and James Cagney and was able to kind of channel that just voice-wise into something like an animated Into the Spider-Verse. Like, I honestly can't imagine to see what he's gonna do with this character when it comes to sort of like live action. So I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan. The only thing that I need from this series, Stuart, it's got to be in black and white. It's got to be in black and white. I got to get a sense of like that Sin City vibe a little bit. I don't know if they want to go that full CGI with those type of effects, but if it's literally just filmed in black and white and has that noir feel to it, man, I think this could be something truly, truly special. So my belief is more in Lord and Miller being able to shape and create and have the hands on from the Spider-Man television side of things. That's, I think, where a lot of my belief in this project certainly comes from, more than anything, though, honestly.
I'm surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually they try to do this behind the scenes, but it's surprising to me that Sony hasn't tried to recruit them as their Kevin Feige.
I am surprised too. And I will say this: I do think, look, we still have what Beyond the Spider-Verse to go, the last animated film. They have given them control of the television side of things. Maybe if Noir is a success, maybe, but by the time that this series drops, it's probably going to be what, 2025, 2026. Will people even care about the Spider-Man Sony universe at that time? I think it's a choice that they should make immediately instead of waiting, because I have a sense that maybe they're waiting to see how the live action stuff is certainly going to do under their reign. But by that time, it might just be sort of like a little bit too late. But I would agree with you. I think they probably should give them sort of the reins to create that universe.
Also, we have a super chat, but before I get to the super chat, I got to ask you. So, because you're a believer, should I start calling you Smash Mouth now?
No, please no. No,
sorry, that was forced.
I'm good. What's up, Blossom, coming through with the super chat today? Noir, just to be clear, Noir is like those black and white detective stories in a sense, right? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're definitely onto it there, Blossom. So there is something that's really intriguing to me about how they can make this work. I think this is a brilliant move on their part. But look, guys, this isn't the only Spider-Man television news that we have for you guys today. Where did my thing go? Okay, here we go. We also do have a cancellation. Well, I don't want to say a cancellation, but they have in fact decided to not go forward with another one of their Marvel television projects. Remember, if you guys recall, not only was it Spider-Man Noir in the works, but at one point in time they also had Silk, the Spider Society, that they were going to be working on, but according to it looks like Hollywood Reporter, that is not moving forward anymore over at Amazon. So let's go ahead and bring up this story and figure out what's going on with Silk, because honestly, Stuart, I kind of wanted to see the introduction of the Cindy Moon character as Silk, but there may be some hope. Let's bring this up here. This is from Hollywood Reporter. Marvel Silk Spider Society is currently dead at Amazon. It says the writing was basically all over the wall for this one. Amazon's Marvel drama. Come on, man. Why aren't you scrolling down for me? Marvel drama Silk Spider Society from producers. Sony Pictures Television is no longer moving forward as the streamer. Sources say Sony TV, which owns the right to a fraction of the Marvel universe that features more than 900 characters, plans to shop the drama series from The Walking Dead showrunner Angela Kang. Kang, who departed her pact with AMC for what sources says is an 8-figure deal with Amazon, remains housed at the streamer and will continue to develop projects for the company. So it looks like former Walking Dead showrunner Angela Kang was in charge of Silk Spider Society. It says reps from Amazon and Sony declined to comment. The decision to scrap Silk comes a mere 2 days after Amazon, during its first in-person pitch, announced the Noir series starring Nicolas Cage. Noir, like Silk, is poised to launch first on Amazon's linear network before debuting on the streamer. It says plans for the interconnected Marvel slate of shows remains in place. is what some sources are saying, though only Noir will be part of that now unless another buyer for Silk emerges. It is unclear if Sony could shop Silk to Disney, which owns the rest of the MCU and has found massive success with its shared universe films and TV shows. So, again, while it's dead at Amazon, they clearly are also going to be trying to shop this series around and see if anybody else winds up picking it up. I am curious as to why Amazon has decided to decline picking up this show. But there's always a possibility of something like a Disney Plus, a Hulu, maybe a Paramount or a Peacock or whoever. If they find it fascinating enough, maybe it's something that they can go ahead and pick up. Look, I
wonder
honest.
if it was like they wanted to play it safe by only starting with one Spider-Man show, and when they heard the pitch for the Nicolas Cage show, they were like, no, we want that.
We want that one instead.
We want
right?
Nicolas Cage Spider-Man.
Look, let me say this. Anytime somebody says, hey, we're not going to pick this up, but we're going to shop it around, I immediately roll my eyes. And it's one of those things where I guess I shouldn't necessarily roll my eyes, because last time I checked, Batman Cape Crusader was also dead at HBO Max, and they were going to shop it around, and then Amazon's like, hey, we'll pick that up, though. We'll pick that up. So is it possible Silk Spider Society gets picked up by somebody else? Absolutely. For me, though, I feel like 7 out of 10, 8 times out of 10, it never necessarily works out that way. So I'm not necessarily going to get my hopes up that this does eventually get picked up by somebody else. I hope it does, because it looks like if it is still going to be a part of this overall Spider-Man television universe that they're kind of making a lot of interconnected pieces towards. It would be fascinating if Disney Plus picks this up, but then I am kind of worried that people are going to get confused that maybe Silk is a part of the MCU kind of going forward. So I hope that it certainly stays separated from Disney Plus. Maybe them putting it on Hulu might work or something along those lines. But I'm a little bit bummed about this. I am kind of curious if it was a script or what it was that Amazon wasn't pleased with to go ahead and pick it up. But you're right, Stuart. Maybe it could be the sense of like, Amazon doesn't want to pick it up because, look, the idea of having 2 Spider-Man series going on at once, or, being the home of all Spider-Man series, maybe that's not something that they find quite appealing. And they rather sort of hedge their bets a little bit. And probably they going with the bigger name with Nicolas Cage and things like that certainly would make sense to me. I mean, look, you've got a former showrunner from The Walking Dead, and Angela Kang, and I think that's certainly worthy of knowing that you've got somebody that's pretty reliable in regards to telling sort of great stories, So I am kind of curious as to why Amazon passed on it, but I personally am not going to get my hopes up in regards to it getting picked up, but always a possibility, Stuart, right?
Yeah. Possibility, but like you kind of mentioned, shows like Batman the Caped Crusader are really more the exception and not the rule. Usually when something doesn't get picked up and they're like, well, we'll see if someone else wants it, it usually doesn't go in their favor.
Yeah, absolutely. Any additional thoughts on this one, though?
I mean, I do hope the best for the show, but yeah, I'm kind of on you. I don't think it's looking too good for her for that show at the moment.
Sam, what's up, Sam? He says, would like to see Spider-Woman television series. Who knows? Maybe this would have opened the door for something along those lines. I'm not quite sure what other live action television series that they certainly might be working on. I can't remember if they were working on a Spider-Man or Spider-Woman live action something, whether it be television series or animated. We go through so many stories sometimes that I kind of forget some of the things that we report on, quite frankly, like months later. Marcelino says, I hope Disney purchases it. Cindy already exists in the MCU, and it would help them buy the rights to Spider-Man back from Sony. I still don't think that's going to happen, but to each their own. We'll see what happens.
Wait, when was she in the MCU?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out when she was. If you can recall that for us, Marcelino, when did they confirm Cindy Moon being a part of the MCU? I believe storyline wise, she is in fact bitten by the same spider that bit Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken. Nathan says, Sony, call Aaron Sorkin, let him write it. It may not be his genre, but the man is a genius. So he wants he's already picking out somebody to write this series. But yeah, guys. So we got one series ago at Amazon, and the other one officially no longer happening in Silk Spider Society. But it does look like they possibly could. The series itself could possibly be picked up. And the last update in regards to, if you guys are curious about what Spider-Man sort of television things are certainly going on, we do have a new update in regards to Spider-Man, or I should say it's now titled Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series that is in fact set to drop. This past week, Marvel's head of animation teased Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man a little bit and talked about it. He says, I mean, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is amazing, to say the least. He says, I think it's really going to surprise people. It is very much like a cut from that Steve Ditko era of comics. It's Peter Parker back in high school just trying to make it work, take care of his aunt, completely broke, and having to be a superhero. It's so essentially Spider-Man. And what Jeff Trammell, the creator of that show, did, which I think people are going to love, is he built this ensemble of characters around Peter that you fall in love with. Similarly, just because it's long form storytelling, as those relationships brew when the stakes rise in the first season, things feel really tragic and dangerous and pretty incredible. So I love that show. So he has high praise for the upcoming Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series itself. And I got to tell you, Stuart, I think one of the things that immediately stands out to me when he mentions that is I actually am a big fan of the idea of a powerful ensemble around him. I think when I think of early Spider-Man days, I still think of I think of like Flash Thompson and Betty Brant and all these side characters that had impactful moments and relationships and things like that with Peter, especially with him being in high school. So I think the idea of it being long form storytelling and really building up a great ensemble around him, I think the sound of that sounds fantastic to me, and the artwork looks pretty dope also. So I'm kind of excited for it.
Mhm. I would agree. I love the artwork, and I love that he even says it's kind of gonna feel like kind of a callback to the real classic era of Spider-Man. The big thing too is that, as we kind of praised X-Men 97 in the beginning of the show, seeing what Marvel Animation can really do, I'm even more excited than I was before. After seeing X-Men 97, and What If's been good too. Don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy What If, but
Yeah, it's been fun.
it's just fun anthology compared to like X-Men, which was like gripping me from beginning to end. So I'm hoping we can get that same kind of emotion like from the Spider-Man TV show.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. But yeah, guys, those are just some of the things that they have certainly working on. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in regards to some of those live action Spider-Man content for television that we have certainly dropping. Ram Jam says, I like the artwork of Spider-Man. Yeah, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man looks good, animation wise. Marcelino says, Cindy just makes background appearances in the Spider-Man films. She never plays major roles in the MCU, just fun cameos. Okay, I'll have to see.
Right.
I'll have to go through like the cast breakdown or to see who popped up in those films. But that's cool. Thanks for letting us know, Marcelino.
Yeah. And then before we move on to the next topic, I do got to bring up my Spider-Man honorable mention that I wanted to say for this section here. So the sound of it, because Sony never specified what they meant by this, but I think that you can kind of put the pieces together. But according to Sony CEO, I'm paraphrasing here, keep that in mind, he was talking about how they really love the success of Beyond the Spider-Verse and of course of Spider-Man No Way Home. So he was hyping up the next Spider-Verse movie, which is Beyond the Spider-Verse, of course, and then saying how that will lead into Spider-Man 4. So you and I have talked about this, how we both kind of want Spider-Man 4 to not go back into the multiverse because we already went there, and we know it would be kind of nice, especially with the way things ended, to have like a more grounded look at Spider-Man for the next film. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction Sony wants to go, and it sounds like Sony has actually won the fight between them and Marvel, and it sounds like that, from what the CEO has said, from the way it sounded like with him mentioning that Beyond will lead into Spider-Man 4. It unfortunately sounds like Spider-Man 4 is going to be a multiverse film. Just from the sound of it, which, don't get me wrong, I love Tom Holland. I'm sure it's going to be a fun movie. I'm just disappointed because I think it could have been really cool to see that version of Spider-Man suddenly have everything kind of taken from him and happen to kind of be on his own, because we haven't really gotten to see like a full movie where it's that side of him, because even when he doesn't have the Avengers, he always has his friends. He always has a superhero to help him out, like whether it's Doctor Strange, Nick Fury, or Iron Man. It would have been nice to get a fourth film where like maybe the only people he has in his corner are people like Daredevil or the Punisher, people he can't necessarily trust. All those possibilities I feel like have kind of dwindled now that they're going back to the multiverse. So, disappointed, but I'll still watch the movie, obviously.
Where did you read that at? Do you remember the website?
So I heard it from Comic Book Cast. They usually are really good with getting their sources from like, places that are valid. And I think it came from a conference call with Sony. So it wasn't like a specific interview. It was more of a conference calls with the investors. And that's when he brought up the, success of the Spider-Man multiverse.
And that was the CEO, Tim Rothman?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to see if
And again, he didn't specifically say multiverse in Spider-Man 4, but he implied it by saying Beyond will lead into Spider-Man 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find an article that might read that real quick. We have a very practical bit of Spider-Man advice. Everything goes through that. Yada yada yada. This is like someone swinging. Okay, that's the. Okay, well, look, I will say this. One of the things that we have been pushing here, one of the things that I've been asking for a really long time, is Miles Morales live action. I think one of the things that we've been talking about for a really long time, if not from after Into the Spider-Verse, then even certainly well before Across the Spider-Verse, is I've been saying for the longest time, I think Beyond the Spider-Verse will eventually get a Miles Morales into our MCU. I'm hoping that one of the final shots of Beyond the Spider-Verse is literally an animated Miles turning into live action in our world, sort of thing. So for me, if that's something that actually happens, I can see why that would sort of open the door and lead into a Spider-Man 4. But for me, I do think while I am sort of done with the idea of a multiverse story, I think if you were to bring in a unique and a new type of multiverse story that doesn't necessarily rely so much on Andrew and Toby, but has a different sort of catch to it, I might be open to it. I might be open to it. In the sense of seeing how not only Miles but Peter Parker interact with one another. Is it a story about them trying to get him back home, or is it a sense of now Peter taking him under his wing and trying to teach him how to be sort of a Spider-Man in the real world sort of mentality? I don't necessarily know if that would take away from the idea of him being street level, because Miles has already had a run-in with the Kingpin. Maybe this is, but what's the Kingpin like in real life, in live action now, and this particular world? I do think that would be a really interesting sort of full circle, but we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. Again, I would not be opposed if it's a different multiverse story being told, in the sense of it now dealing with Miles Morales being in this world. I find that kind of fascinating, but maybe they can find sort of a nice balance to its story. At least that's what I'm hoping for, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Christopher says Sony's gonna Sony. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Ain't that the truth? Marcelina says, you guys didn't talk about how they weren't going to let Cindy be the lead in her own series, or that they were going from female audience to more male audience. I mean, I don't remember the article really breaking that down in the sense of Cindy not being the main lead in her own series. I mean, maybe the idea of it being called Spider Society, maybe that opens it up to other people being sort of a part of that world. But I haven't personally read anything in regards to that. You know, the idea of it going from female audience to more male audience. I mean, look, Stuart, that wouldn't surprise me. You know, there was sort of an inkling of thought that I had back in my head that I didn't bring up when we talked about it, in a sense of like after the performance of Madam Web, you know, I was hearing a lot of rumblings that executives and people at studios were now leaning to the idea of like, you know, maybe the reason why some of these things are failing is because it's female led, and maybe female led, you know, things like that in the male dominated franchise can't sort of survive. And one thing I always said is I think they're reading all the wrong signs. You know, I think that they're taking the wrong lessons away from a lot of these things and putting the onus on the idea of it failing because of being female, instead of the idea of like, well, maybe you guys aren't just telling good enough stories, you know? Like, I just think they're putting the onus on the wrong thing. So look, you know, did they pick Noir over Silk because it's more male lead? I don't know. I mean, if somebody tells me, hey, we've got Nicolas Cage attached to this project, hell yeah, I'm gonna go with the Nicolas Cage project. But there is a part of me that does think maybe there's a sense of worriness, some worrisome behind the scenes of, you know, how confident do we feel about a female led series? And I don't want my mind to go there, but I think Hollywood has shown their trepidation these days, I think, of maybe tackling something along those lines.
Hollywood will always take the wrong message from both failure and success, and I think Sony
Mm.
is one of the most guilty parties of that. So if Sony's lesson from, or if the lesson that Sony learned from Madam Web was that men don't like to see women superhero movies, that wouldn't surprise me, because Sony is the kind of person that, again, would, or I say person, sorry, company. Sony is the type of company that would take that would take the wrong message from their failures.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that up, Marcelino. I appreciate it.
I mean,
Um,
even their successes. I mean, the way they're talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, they're acting like it's not because of the story that people love it. They're acting like, oh, it's because it's the multiverse. That's why people love this movie, right?
right? Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Again, those three live action, or those three Spider-Man television topics: Spider-Man Noir, Silk Spider Society, and Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic, because we're going to stay in the world of the MCU. And we're going to highlight one of our favorite actors and characters from the MCU. Good old Chris Pratt is back in the news, talking about when are we going to see Star-Lord again. You know, look, Chris Pratt, I do think, is in a very interesting position right now. He has, in fact, finished a Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. You know, whether or not they give us a Guardians of the Galaxy 4 somewhere down the road, where or how could he possibly pop back up in the MCU, I think is certainly questions that a lot of people certainly have. But with his close ties and his relationship with James Gunn, is there a possibility that Chris Pratt also pops up in the DCU? Does he have to pick and choose? Will he be back in the MCU? Is he going to work exclusively for the DCU? I thought this was a pretty interesting topic, but this comes to us from comicbook.com, Stuart, where they had the opportunity to sit down with good old Chris Pratt himself and discuss this very question. So according to the article here, it says Chris Pratt says he will 100% be returning as Star-Lord and appearing in James Gunn's DCU. So it looks as though he's looking to work some overtime here, Stuart. But let's go ahead and dive into this article here. It says they got the opportunity to sit down, comicbook.com, talking about his work on the Garfield movie, which for those of you who don't know, Chris Pratt is in fact voicing Garfield in the animated feature. It says Pratt argued that either option is equally likely and that he could very well end up appearing in both superhero sagas. He says, well, it probably makes more sense that I would be Star-Lord again, Pratt said in our interview, which you can check out above in the article. But anything is possible, especially with James over at DC. Maybe there's something that would be right over there. Maybe both. How about both? Let's do both. I think it's 100% both. So he really like doubles down on this. He kind of teases the idea that nothing, that maybe it might happen, and then it feels like he full-fledged just jumps into this notion of, you know what?
It will happen.
It will happen. It will happen. So let me ask you, Stuart, now that you've heard that, where do you stand with this? Do you think him and James Gunn have clearly already had conversations, or is this a case of, Chris Pratt just kind of trying to be hopeful in this sense?
I'm pretty sure he knows he's going to be in the DC universe. I think that he and James Gunn have had talks. Don't know who he's going to be playing. I know a lot of people are really theorizing that it's going to be Booster Gold. But I think there's a world, there's a literal world of possibilities of who he could be playing, and I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with him, because I know that James Gunn knows how to cast people. So, and he also knows Chris Pratt very well. So I feel like he knows exactly what Chris Pratt would be perfect in. So yeah, I think it's for sure going to happen. And of course, we already know that he's coming back to Marvel. I mean, in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, they tell us straight up that, this isn't the end. This may be the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's not the end of Star-Lord. We're going to get more story with him. And yeah, I know that there's a lot of dislike that some people on the internet will have for Chris Pratt, but I feel like it's really more just that I think he's often utilized incorrectly by Hollywood movies, specifically like with Garfield and with Mario and that kind of stuff. But, when he's given the right role, I think he can give a pretty solid performance.
Yeah, I agree. I do think he can give a pretty solid performance. And honestly, I was right there with a lot of these people saying Chris Pratt as Booster Gold is like 100%, but I'm not quite so sure now. I do think that he can play anybody that they certainly ask of him. We literally just heard Nathan Fillion talk about the idea of like how soon James Gunn actually approached him to play Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, how quickly he approached him to play Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, in the upcoming Superman film. And we found out they had this conversation all the way back at the Suicide Squad premiere party. So this was this sort of approach from James Gunn, going to his actors and talking to them about an idea that they have for them being in an upcoming role. I don't think should certainly surprise anybody. So I'm very much under the impression that Chris Pratt and James Gunn have already talked. He probably already knows who he's going to be playing in the DCU, but just certainly isn't telling anybody. I will say this, Stuart. I know a lot of people are fan casting him for Booster Gold. I would be really curious if anybody that's watching us live, do you have any sort of casting suggestions or fan casting of who you personally would like to see Chris Pratt play other than Booster Gold? Because I do agree with you. I think that's the number one that a lot of people are going to connect him to. Just talking about Booster Gold in general real quick, if there is anybody that I think has kind of caught my eye recently, and I didn't see him in...
Can I make a prediction of who you're going to suggest?
Probably. Yeah, go for it. Who do you think you're going to... I'm
Are you going to say Glenn Powell?
Yes.
Knew it.
Yes. I guess that's the new thing too, is for Glenn Powell. I'm seeing, when I see Glenn Powell, I not only see Booster Gold, but I also see Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a part of me, because he was in Top Gun Maverick, he's got the pilot sort of experience, he's got that flair, but I think he's just got the charm and the charisma that a Hal Jordan could probably really play around with. So I am starting to think that Glenn Powell for either Green Lantern or Booster Gold, but Chris Pratt is still going to be my choice for Booster Gold right now. I'm trying to think of who else I would like to see him in, but I'm not quite sure. But if anything, maybe we get ourselves a returning Star-Lord and say something like Secret Wars. That wouldn't be too far-fetched. But I am kind of curious if he may pop up certainly anywhere else. But let the speculation begin, guys. But I love the idea of Chris Pratt sticking in the MCU. They really helped his sort of career kind of take off. I'm sure he probably owes something to them, probably loves working in that world. But if you can juggle both and get away with both, why not, man? So I'm eager for this. I'm eager to see where he's going to pop up next.
Definitely.
What do we got in the live chat here? We got Sam. He says Chris Pratt might be good as Hal Jordan or a Deathstroke. Interesting choice on the Deathstroke.
I don't think I could ever see him as Deathstroke, but
yeah,
I mean, I've been
not my
wrong
first
before.
choice. I'd be curious to see like how good is your acting, Chris? Can you pull something like that off? But I don't know. I really don't know where else I would want to see Chris Pratt as.
If actually, here's a voice acting role I think he could do if they wanted to have him be the what's Mixel Pitalik.
Oh,
yeah. If they wanted him to voice Mixel Pitalik in James Gunn's Superman movie.
That would be pretty classic. He's got the comedy chops for sure. They would have to do some really weird CGI on his face though. But
yeah, like that. That's why I'm thinking like he could voice act that character, because like they could just put him in as like a 3D animated character, or if they want to do like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit, they could just like put him in as a 2D animated character, make him look exactly the same way he looks in the comic books that way.
Okay. I'm digging it, man. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Who would you personally like to see Chris Pratt play? A lot of suggestions for Booster Gold, but is there anybody else out there that you can see him playing? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And you got any other thoughts, Stuart?
Oh, nope. Just
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and move into our next topic as we dive into the world of Star Wars, baby. Because look, June 4th is going to be here before we know it, as the Acolyte is in fact set to go ahead and premiere over on Disney Plus. We definitely will be doing episode reviews for you guys. As of right now, it's probably going to be me and Stuart breaking it down on a weekly basis for you guys. So we will be tag teaming the Acolyte series if you guys are interested. So go ahead and certainly mark your calendars for our long form reviews there. We may even bring on a third or maybe a fourth. I don't know in regards to breaking it down, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted. But the reason why we're talking about it this week is because marketing and promotion for this show continues to kick off, man. Continues to be thrown out there. And you know what's funny, Stuart, is like all the Acolyte videos that we have done so far, I'm pretty sure we've got more dislikes than likes on all of them. It's really hard to find anybody really being positive about this series unless you go into the deep and dark crevices of Twitter, and maybe you might find some of us out there still appealing to the public to give this show a shot. But we want to talk about it because they've got 2 articles this week that came out of gamesradar.com that talked about this show and given us a little bit more insight. I think they even dropped a brand new like 30-second teaser spot for the show to give you a little bit more image, a little bit more dialogue also. But I wanted to go ahead and get into this with you, Stuart. But let me get the easy one, if you will, out of the way first. And that comes in the form of, look, I know when it comes to Star Wars, the lore, the timeline, the canon stuff can be rather intimidating for some people. You know, we've got the prequel trilogy, the original trilogy, the sequel trilogy. We got television series in between. We got Star Wars novels. Where do I begin? Oh, it's too much. Well, you know what? According to them, apparently the Acolyte is the perfect gateway to Star Wars, which, if you ask me, Stuart, I think honestly makes a whole lot of sense. I've been telling people, like, if you want to get into Star Wars, if you're a big reader, if you like the concept of reading novels, you know, one of the best routes I always recommend is check out the High Republic era. You are completely separated away from anything else sort of Star Wars related. You've got fresh characters, new stories that are certainly being told that at the end of the day will build up into the upcoming trilogies that we've gotten for Star Wars so far. But according to gamesradar.com, it says, and you don't need to know anything about the franchise to watch it. So clearly a great gateway for them. It says it's a gateway, and you don't need to. And you don't need to know anything about Star Wars to be able to drop in. That's been the most fun aspect, because we're not backing into anything that's pre-decided. They're new characters. All of their fates were up to Leslie Headland, the showrunner, and the writing room. So it's going to be really fun. Hope to see where they go. So would you agree with that sentiment, Stuart?
Yeah, I think, well, I haven't really read any High Republic novels or any of the comics. So basically, my knowledge of the High Republic is very, very limited. But given that, like you mentioned, it takes place before, any of the main events that we're aware of with the Star Wars franchise. And on top of that, this is all original characters, and we don't know their fates in the future, or in the present Star Wars timeline. Yeah, I do love it when writers have this kind of flexibility within an already established universe, because now what you're getting is kind of like something that George Lucas actually said. I actually started watching a couple of interviews with George Lucas recently. One of them was between him and James Cameron, and one of them that he said is, like, as much as he loves sci-fi, his more fascinating idea is the people living in the world of sci-fi. How do they interact with each other in a world like this? And so, yeah, using fully original characters where we don't know their fate, so the writers aren't limited, I think this is a perfect direction to take the Star Wars franchise, personally.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you. And let me go ahead and pull. I just want to go ahead and show you guys, if you're interested in picking up any novels, Star Wars: The High Republic, man. This is the very first book in the new set of stories called Light of the Jedi. It's written by Charles Soule, who's done some incredible comic book work, especially on the Darth Vader series and some other Star Wars series. Also, if you read the comic books, but I think it's a perfect launching point. Honestly, this book truly hooked me within the very first chapter. I mean, it's balls to the walls immediately, like just thrusting you into the action. Very intense. I love the way that it's written, and a great introduction to brand new characters, if you ask me. So I think Light of the Jedi is a great sort of launching point for fans that are interested in learning a little bit more about the High Republic era. For those of you who don't know, this series, The Acolyte, will in fact take place towards the tail end of the High Republic era, as I think this is like 100 years removed from the Phantom Menace, as they're getting ready to go ahead and jump into that particular timeline. But again, if you are thinking about getting into Star Wars, but you felt rather intimidated by it, The Acolyte is a great sort of gateway to begin your adventures there. But with that, let's get into the juicy aspect about this series, shall we, Stuart? We got more details coming our way in the form of the showrunner itself. And the pitch, most importantly, the pitch. How did Leslie Headland score this job to be the showrunner for The Acolyte? And according to them, it says the Acolyte showrunner's pitch for Star Wars show was so great, Stuart, Kathleen Kennedy was in tears, bro. Had her crying. So let's see. Before all the hate begins, let's dive into this. Come on, why is this acting up on me, man? Okay, here we go. The Acolyte is shaping up to be a unique entry into the Star Wars saga. Where's my images here, man? Let me go ahead and pull this up. It says, and its initial pitch by showrunner Leslie Headland makes that very clear, as well as being so powerful it had the room in tears. This is what producer Rain Roberts said. Leslie said it was Frozen meets Kill Bill in a Star Wars universe. He says it immediately communicated a kind of emotional entanglement and also high octane action. It was like, I think I understand what that is. And it started a conversation that led to me elevating her pitch, ultimately up to Kathleen Kennedy. Leslie is an amazing storyteller, and when she finally pitched Kennedy, everyone was crying. It was that kind of meeting, is what she says. It says, it also goes on to say here in the article, the thing I picked up on and got very excited about was Kill Bill. is what the additional producer Simon Emanuel says. One of the things we talked about really early on was action. And I really believe that in these kind of shows, action has to be a character. It can't just be, give me a punch, give me a lightsaber fight. So I introduced Leslie to a guy called Chris Clark Cohen, who is our action designer and part of the team who worked on the Darth Vader sequence in Rogue One. Leslie and Chris completely fell in love, and action became such a component of the story. For me, it's the best action the franchise has seen. There's so much of it. And if you recall, Stuart, we also talked about the idea a couple of weeks ago too, that Daphne Keane really talked up the action in this series, right? It's letting us know that their bar for success was the Duel of the Fates lightsaber battle. And some people crapped all over that idea, like, oh, the audacity to think that you can, overtake a series. Like, it wasn't even her talking about that, just more in the sense of the ideology and what they really wanted to try and accomplish, right? Really giving Nick Gillard his credit for, like we said, 25 years later, still having one of the best lightsaber battles. There's nothing wrong, I think, with a group and a cast and a crew wanting to do their best to outdo it. And so when we have an additional super producer in here talking about it like that, in the sense it's the best action the franchise has seen, there's so much of it, whether or not it's ever going to top that, it sounds like they are at least doing their best to achieve that. So I am kind of curious as to your thoughts in regards to this. One, the idea of who they brought on to certainly help with the action sequences, and two, the idea of their pitch being very much a Frozen meets Kill Bill. What does that do for you in the sense of how does that make you feel, Stuart? Let us know. Enlighten us.
I mean, I got some mixed feelings, but I'm wondering if I should just let them go. No, I'm kidding. So I mean, it's a really, really weird on the surface to say, oh, it's Kill Bill meets Frozen, but I kind of get what they're going for. I'm assuming they're talking about in terms of like, the themes of Frozen, in terms of family, in terms of, never letting go of the ones that you love, which we kind of see that in the trailer because it involves sisters, one seemingly in the dark side, one on the light side. So I get what they mean in that aspect in terms of the theme. And then, of course, yeah, obviously in terms of Kill Bill, what they mean is clearly the action, as they've been like, really hyping it up. And as we got to see from the first couple of first looks that we got, they really did take it to a whole different level. Getting to see, combat that we don't normally see in Star Wars. A lot of hand-to-hand combat because we have a Jedi that just doesn't want to use her lightsaber unless she absolutely has to. And it seems like she's not going to be the only one like that. And you know what, this may be a hot take, but that feels like the most George Lucas decision you could honestly make, because as Dave Filoni described, when he first met George Lucas said that Jedi never uses their lightsaber for intimidation, basically. So if you don't need it for intimidation, you only really need it for self-defense. And if she's skilled with martial arts, she won't need it unless she's like in danger. You know what I mean? All that to say, I like that they're taking this to a whole different level. We've seen how cool the lightsaber battles can get. So it's going to be cool to see how they mix it with like, hand-to-hand fighting. Everything, again, everything I keep hearing about the Acolytes sounds awesome, and I don't know what the hate is all about.
My girlfriend comments, it means there will be blood.
There will. Oh my gosh. That would be cool if we actually finally got our Star Wars MA show. So you could have like aliens whose, biology makes it so when they get cut apart, their wounds don't get cauterized the same way humans do. Kind of like the alien at the bar in A New Hope,
I mean, like, I'm good for like just a bloody lip. Can I get a bloody lip at least, or a bloody nose?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Christopher Robin, he's like, I'm calling BS on this, man. He says this sounds like BS to me. Maybe the notion of like the crying. But I don't know. My thing would be, I don't know why you would even bring that up if it wasn't true, right? Like the idea of mentioning, yeah, they cried in a room, like that just feels like a weird detail that to bring up in an interview unless it really happened. So look, I will say this. I feel like they personally are saying all the right things in regards to getting people hyped for this show, quite frankly. Um, when I think of Star Wars, I do think of not only great action, but I also think of great drama and great emotions. And if you're to tell me, what'd you think about Frozen? I love the first Frozen movie. I know I'm a grown ass 40-year-old man, but I love Frozen. I thought it had some really great emotional impacts for sure. And then Kill Bill, I mean, damn, I think that's some of Quentin Tarantino's finest work. I absolutely love it. So, I can get the idea of why they went with that particular way of certainly kind of explaining it. Like, to me, this signifies the idea that there's a very heavy character component to who Amandla Stenberg is going to be playing, and the mysterious character by the name of May. Like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of heavy emphasis on the connection between her master in here, Master Saul, and the drama that certainly maybe perhaps ensued between them. There's a really great line in here where you see Master Saul chasing after May in here, and she's kind of backed up into a corner, and she turns around and she's like, "It wasn't me, you have to believe me," sort of thing. That feels very much like a fugitive moment, like Harrison Ford on the edge, like, "I didn't kill her," and like they want to bring her in, and then he jumps off the dam, sort of thing. Right, like there's a really great sense of, who do you trust? Can you trust the people that brought you up and trained you, or is there more going on behind the scenes that you're now kind of figuring out? These are all sort of very complex emotions and drama that they have to kind of intertwine. And so the idea of leaning back on the idea of, like, this is kind of like Frozen meets Kill Bill, I can easily see that this show kind of leaning heavily into it. And Stuart, look, I think when you're talking about the action aspect of it, I think if anybody walks away from Rogue One remembering anything, it's that Darth Vader scene, right? Because it wasn't just the idea of, hey, we're throwing in Darth Vader as fan service. You felt like that moment almost needed to be in there. Like, it just added a sense of dread, hopelessness, fear, right? Just the way that it was created, it just made that lightsaber appearance and Darth Vader appearance just mean that much more to the movie itself, especially leading into something like A New Hope. So the idea of them utilizing the same action designer to come in and really emphasize action being played as a character, I think that's a very smart choice. Like, if I'm honestly taking a step back and looking at this fair-mindedly, I do think that that's a really smart choice, instead of just putting action pieces on the screen just to have action, just to say, hey, see, we're Star Wars, we got lightsaber battles in here. If you make your lightsaber battles truly mean something, and not just pulling them out to have a fight sequence, but only truly pulling them out when you need to, to me, I think that leads to an understanding of the franchise that you're diving into in here. So sort of, I would agree with you, man. Like, if I'm trying to be fair-minded about it, if I'm not trying to carry over this sort of hate of Kathleen Kennedy that many people seem to harbor, and I take into consideration what Leslie Headland has done with her past series, like Russian Doll, which got nominated for a ton of Emmys also, like, she is an acclaimed and recognized writer. She certainly knows what she's doing, and I think she's more than capable of putting together a great Star Wars show. Now, again, does that mean this show is going to be incredible? No, but I do think that you have the right people in place. You have the right people saying the right things, and really sort of highlighting what this show could potentially be. Now, whether or not they execute it well, who knows? But as far as like what they want this show to be, I'm all on board in what they want this show to be, and I hope it lives up to it, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything.
Let's see here. Sam says, I heard Daisy Ridley wants John Boyega in the new Star Wars film. Yeah, I did read that also. We'll see. I don't even know how far along that script is, if he's even a part of the script, but who certainly knows. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to the Acolyte. Stuart and I will try and figure out. There's a part of me that kind of wants to do it live, our reviews. But we'll keep you posted as to if it's going to be live, it's going to be pre-recorded. We haven't really picked out a time yet in regards to when we're going to be dropping the reviews, but we'll definitely keep you guys posted in the comment section box below. I'm going to try and reach out to another YouTuber, Crystal Kyber, and I think I'm going to try and reach out to Will also and see if they might want to join us on a weekly basis, or maybe pop up and do cameos as we go through each of the episodes of the Acolyte. But I keep my fingers crossed, man, that this series certainly does well.
Awesome.
Who knows? Maybe this video will get more dislikes than likes because we talked about that.
I'm sure. You know what? It would be funny as heck, like if our reviews, like just like that, like suddenly our views go super high up just so people can review bomb us. Like that would be hilarious.
I mean, I'm prepped for the Disney shill sort of comments, like, yeah, I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Look, you hear this from the Acolyte showrunners and producers, the emotional impact that the pitch from Leslie Headland had on some of these people, even the idea of how they want to make action truly a character in this series. Just from what you've been hearing, we definitely want to know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's move on to our next topic here.
I just got to dip out for 30 seconds. I will be right back, but I'll be listening. So yeah.
Gotcha. No problem. So the next topic we're going to get into, we're going to kind of be jumping back on board with this Lord of the Rings, the Hunt for Gollum announcement that we wind up getting earlier last week. We highlighted the idea that not only were we going to be getting the War of Rohirrim, and brand new animated film that's set to go ahead and drop Christmas of this year, but apparently Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Andy Serkis are in fact returning to go ahead and give us a live action Lord of the Rings film titled The Hunt for Gollum, where Andy Serkis will also be directing and reprising his role as good old Schmeagol himself, or Gollum this time around. But I think one of the biggest questions that we had after that announcement was, why are they returning? Like, what is the purpose of them sort of making this film in the first place? Like, what other story could you possibly certainly tell in this world? And so we're going to go ahead and talk about it with you guys today. So let me go ahead and bring this up. This actually comes to us from Deadline.com, and it's titled Peter Jackson, Andy Serkis, Philippa Boyens explain why they're returning to Middle Earth for the Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, 20 years after that particular, what's 23 years after Kane's saved the billion-dollar franchise. Let's see if we can pick this up somewhere. It says exclusive. Says Warner Brothers acquired rights to make more Middle Earth films based on Tolkien's work. It says they mulled how to return and much to involve themselves into another deep dive into Tolkien's mythology. As a business proposition, the allure is easy to understand. 2 trilogies, the 6 Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films together generated nearly $6 billion in revenue grosses and enough Oscar gold to fill the layer of the dragon Smaug from the 2012's The Hobbit and Unexpected Journey. It says the next film iteration could have focused on several intriguing characters, including Aragorn, the courageous ranger but reluctant king, played by Viggo Mortensen, or that matter, maybe even Orlando Bloom's elven archer Legolas, or even Ian McKellen's journey as the Grey Wizard Gandalf. It turned out that the best path to mine Middle-earth mythology for the first of 2 new films was Gollum. Now we get a glimpse during Lord of the Rings. The hobbit Schmeagol killed his friend, who unfortunately fished the ring out of a lake, and Schmeagol quickly coveted Sauron's ring. We watched Gollum's soul corrupted as he was driven mad by a ring, and we watched Gollum unwittingly save the world by biting the ring off of Frodo's invisible finger on Mount Doom, and in celebration, slipping off a ravine and into the fires below, destroying himself along with the source of Sauron's menacing power. it says, and so the choice of another movie became The Hunt for Gollum. And the surprise was that Andy Serkis, the actor turned into in those breathtaking Gollum performances, would helm the film, with every chance that cast members from the original will drop in. And they even teased the idea of maybe even Legolas possibly coming back for this as well. Again, that's just what they're suggesting in here. So, Jackson told Deadline that there's much more ground to cover, especially in the periods when Gollum was off the grid. So this seems like maybe the route that they might be deciding to take here. It says, the Gollum Schmeagol character has always fascinated me because Gollum reflects the worst of human nature, whilst his Smeagol side is arguably quite sympathetic. I think he connects with readers and film audiences alike because there's a little bit of both in all of us. We really want to explore his backstory and delve into those parts of his journey we didn't have time to cover in the earlier films. It's too soon to know who will cross his path, but suffice to say, we will take our lead from Professor Tolkien. So this definitely sounds as though when it comes to Peter Jackson, he is very much a believer in the idea of, look, at the end of the day, despite what story we tell, it will be very much sort of Tolkien inspired. And I do think there is some elements of the idea of a Schmeagol and Gollum character being even more fully immersed in and developed upon. I think for me, one of my favorite Gollum and Schmeagol scenes is probably from the Two Towers, where he's literally having a conversation with himself, and they do incredible sort of editing work, the back and forth between the two conversations and the two like completely different personalities that we wind up getting. And so that's something more of what I would definitely like to see explored. And if we get to learn a little bit more about that time from the moment in which Smeagol gets his hands on the ring to the point to where we see him in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I do think that there's certainly a lot for them to really mine in here, to be quite frank with you. Oh, you got any thoughts, Stuart?
Yeah, so one thing that kind of stuck out with the article you were reading, see, I told you I was paying attention. Oh, well, I was gone. But the fact that they said that there were aspects that they didn't get to fully explore with his character, and I kind of disagree with that. I feel like after the trilogy and after the full trilogy, I feel like he had a complete arc. We knew everything we needed to know about this character. And even though his appearance in The Hobbit was great, probably the best scene in the whole trilogy, honestly, it didn't add to his character. It just reestablished what we already knew about his character, which was great. And like I said, my favorite scene in the whole trilogy. But yeah, I don't know, I don't know if I buy that reasoning behind it. The idea of, oh, there was so much more that we want to explore between the two personalities. It's like, you kind of already did.
Christopher Throman, he says, I can answer why they came back. It's money.
Money.
They will get money. I think everybody's going to come out for a Lord of the Rings movie regardless. So yeah, definitely more financial benefit there for sure. They also go on to say, to Jackson and Philippa, who wrote the first 6 films with Fran Walsh, giving Serkis the job was the easiest decision they could have made. He says that Andy was a joy to work with, directing second unit on The Hobbit. He has the energy and imagination, and most importantly, an inherent understanding of the world of the story that is needed to step back into Middle Earth. We have collaborated on 8 films together, and each time it has been fantastic experience. There's no one else there's no one in this earth better equipped to tackle Gollum's story than Andy. And I am looking forward to it. If anything, again, I didn't necessarily care for Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, but I'm pretty sure Andy Serkis as a director has certainly learned from that experience. He might have even had more opportunities after that to direct more stuff also, but considering his love and his attachment to the Gollum character, this certainly makes sense to me as to why Andy's coming back. They also go on to say Gollum's story is one of the most compelling to us in terms of character that we couldn't go as deeply as we wanted to before, which sounds strange when you say that, given how familiar he is to everyone. Gollum's lifespan takes place in such an interesting period of Middle Earth. When the question was first asked, this was the first story that we thought of, because I can tell you, and people might not believe this, but we had zero expectations of going back to this. It wasn't something we were looking to do particularly. So when the question was asked, it was like, what would draw you back? And it was about working with people that we were working with. It was also about the chance to work with Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi at the studio. Alan Horn is now back at the studio. It just felt right. He says Pete has always admired Andy's ability as a director. That's why he was asked to shoot his second unit. It could have been a no-brainer. It was never about why Andy. It was like, please God, let Andy say yes. We wanted him to tell the story of Gollum and the hunt for Gollum as soon as we decided, okay, that's the story. And Pete knew he didn't want to go back into the world of Middle Earth again in regards to directing. Pete really enjoyed working with Kenji Kamiyama, who directed War of the Rohirrim. As soon as Pete decided, okay, I'm not going to direct it myself, it's going to be Gollum's story, I swear to God, there was no one else but Andy Serkis. I will say,
I'll say that though. The one thing that does give me some hope about this, because like, even though my interest is, not existent at the moment, the thing that will make me go see this movie in theaters though is the fact that we have Andy Serkis returning as Gollum and also directing the film as well. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I will say too, I do think that this is I think this, look, the fact too that Peter Jackson and them were like, look, we really had no intention of even coming back to this. To me, that is where this feels more like a money grab, not for Peter Jackson and them, but definitely for David Zaslav. You know, I think the idea of like, there really was no more story for us to tell, but David is probably like, look, we need to really rely on our franchises and our sequels. Like, if we absolutely needed to do another Lord of the Rings movie, what would you come back for? Like, what would you want to focus on? And I think the idea of them suggesting this type of story is maybe what David Zaslav is one of the reasons why he gave the green light to it anyway. But this definitely feels like they had no intention of coming back. And David Zaslav's like, we need to find a reason to bring back Lord of the Rings. and here we are today. It says, to Serkis, the opportunity brings his career full circle. It was a seminal moment for motion capture, and in it, as a way, the seminal screen moment at the coffee shop scene in Heat between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Serkis has been a part of the continued development of bringing creatures to life across performance and VFX, and he's eager to put his own stamp over 2 decades. I'm trying to see if they focus on, or they bring up like why they decided, like what storyline they are kind of going with in here. I thought that they highlighted it. They really talk a lot to Andy Serkis. Oh, here we go. It says Jackson, Serkis, and cohorts also understand that Middle Earth has gotten crowded, with Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, completing its first strong season at a reported $450 million investment by Amazon. This is what they say. There's room enough for lots of people to exist in that space. We never wanted to be the gatekeepers of Middle Earth. Sometimes other people put you in that position, but we don't feel that. Honestly, I haven't seen any of the series. I didn't want to go watch because I generally didn't want to be influenced. And I think it's a fantastic era as a choice. The making of The Rings of Power is a brilliant piece of storytelling. It's a great era full of fascinating characters. He says, we have the right to do the Lord of the Rings and the appendices, and that's it. He says, I would love to see that expand if there was an opportunity to do so, but there's so much that is in those 3 books. I know that especially hardcore fans of Professor Tolkien, they're always getting nervous that there's only so much story. But look at War of the Rohirrim. It's a page and a half at first glance in the books, but there are lots of threads throughout the book. They also say War of Rohirrim sits 200 years before the events of The Ring, and it really is a standalone story. It's one of the reasons that I came to that story when we were looking to do something that would fit with anime. We wanted something that would really had nothing to do with the Rings of Power or Sauron or the Dark Tower or wizards even. It's a story about people who are tearing themselves apart. So that felt like a really good fit, not only for anime, but to go into a new art form, which anime is, and try and tell the story based in Middle Earth without touching upon any of the live action films, if that makes sense. What it did for us, though, was reignite that passion for the world and the work of Tolkien. It absolutely has done that, and I think it surprised us. We fell back into the world really easily, and it just felt like a natural fit. It also showed us, it certainly showed me how deep the mythology runs and how much story is certainly left to be told. So, I kind of feel like that's also what they're doing, Stuart, with like the Game of Thrones stuff, right? In the
Mhm.
sense of there's so much lore for them to dive into. Granted, they've got the George R.R. Martin books that they can definitely um, grab a hold of. But we just talked about the idea that like even George R.R. Martin's novella for Night, that the Hedge Knight was only 180 pages, and they're seemingly turning that into a series now, right? At least a 6 episode season one, whether or not it gets a second or third season. But the idea of taking, the War of Rohirrim and basing that literally on like a page and a half of story that they were able to do, and then kind of build upon it and anything else that might be within the appendices. I think it just goes to show you that there's probably a ton of stuff that they can mine from whatever Tolkien has written so far.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I feel like I feel like I'm being like way too harsh on this, because you are right. The world of Lord of the Rings, there is so much story that they can tell. I think just it's just weird to me that they chose Gollum. Is all to me. It feels like that'd be the equivalent of making a full length Star Wars film where C-3PO is like the main character. When you have all these other characters that they could be playing with, because you even mentioned also earlier Aragorn and Legolas. I feel like. I feel like kind of a prequel starring the two of them would get me more excited than this. It's just they chose the one character that I just at the moment don't see how he can like carry his own movie. But again, I'm ready to eat my words. I'm ready for this to actually be an amazing movie and for everyone on the internet to tell me to shut the hell up.
I think we talked about this last time, like the hunt for Gollum, like what could that mean? And I think one of the things that I brought up last time we talked was I do think that there's a story to be told in the sense of if you go back and you rewatch The Fellowship of the Ring, I believe it's Gandalf discovers that Bilbo has the ring. And as he gives it to Frodo to protect, Gandalf then goes on a journey of his own, I think, to hunt for Gollum, to try and find out where he is, get any information that he might knows, or the idea too of worried that Gollum is going to tell somebody that the who has the ring. And this would not surprise me if this is in fact that story between a Gandalf trying to find him when we see Gollum being sort of tortured at Sauron's tower, giving up who it is. To me, and I believe that story is told a little bit further in either the Lord of the Ring trilogy itself or the appendices. But I do believe you do get returning characters like a Gandalf, like an Aragorn, whose mission it is to try and find Gollum as well. And so I do think that we could get some interesting returning characters. You know, I don't know how old Viggo Mortensen is now. I don't know if he would reprise his role as Aragon or if they would just recast or whatever the case may be. But that's the time period that I'm assuming that this story is certainly going to be taking. And so if that's the case, I think it would be a really interesting tale to tell in between a story that's taking place like the Fellowship of the Ring. So I'm kind of fascinated to kind of see how something like this might work out.
Mhm.
But yeah, guys, let us know how you guys feel about the idea of more live action Lord of the Rings. We definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. Sam says, actually seen the fan film The Hunt for Gollum. Yeah, we talked about that last time. He says, and it's really awesome story. I just don't know why they would be doing it again. I hope it's the same story, please. And I do believe it is the same story. But again, that's a fan film. That's not necessarily a cinematically released film. So the idea of doing it again, I mean, this technically would be the first time it would be on the big screen. But I did start watching some of that fan film. I do need to certainly go back and finish it. But from the first aspects that I saw of it, it looks pretty good, Stuart. If you're looking for a good fan film to certainly check out, they look like they put a lot of attention to detail in it.
I do remember that coming out, or I don't remember when it came out originally, but I do remember it being in my recommendations for the longest time on YouTube, and I just never got around to watching it.
But yeah, it is on my to watch list. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and certainly finish it off. But and my thing would be, I don't necessarily I don't know if we talked about the idea of the Prey fan film. People were getting on it about copyright and stuff. In this regards, I don't believe that would be the case. I think because of the fact that it is a story that Tolkien told, I think it's up for anybody to certainly use, as long as it's not necessarily scene for scene, clip for clip, dialogue for dialogue. If Peter Jackson and them can come up with a fascinating story and how they want to go ahead and tell it, I think it's kind of up for grabs. So I don't think we should have any of those issues as we had before.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards for The Hunt of Gollum and the return of Andy Serkis and Peter Jackson. And with that out of the way, Stuart, let's dive into, we got two more topics we're going to be breaking down for you guys today. And this one is going to come in the realm of revisiting the good old John Wick franchise, man.
Yeah.
John Wick 4 definitely left a lot of us thinking to ourselves, is there more? Is this the end sort of thing? But look, while we certainly don't know if there's going to be a John Wick 5 with returning Keanu Reeves, we definitely do know that they certainly want to strike while it's hot right now when it comes to this franchise. Not only do we have ourselves a ballerina film certainly coming out starring Ana de Armas, but we also have now apparently a brand new John Wick spinoff, this time, Stuart, featuring good old Donnie Yen, baby. If you guys recall, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. Donnie Yen to star in a John Wick Kane spinoff movie. You did see John Wick 4, right, Stuart?
I did.
Nice. So I'll be really.
I forgot. Did I tell you my one nitpick in that movie?
No, what was it?
Okay, they do this in all the John Wick movies where he survived stuff that he shouldn't really, no human should be able to survive. But at least those scenes are towards the beginning and then towards the end, maybe a little bit in the middle. John Wick 4, every scene he's in, he is thrown off a building. He is run over by a car. He is just put through some of the worst beatings ever. And he gets up, and sure, it's a little bit of I'm struggling to get up. Oh, I'm a little bruised. But then he brushes it off, and he goes back to doing what he's doing again. It's you had me believing this in the trilogy, but it happened so much in John Wick 4. I'm just okay, my suspension of disbelief is just gone now.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. And I think last time you mentioned that, I think one of the things that I said was, for me, the unbelievable part was at the end of John Wick 3 when he falls off the building and he's literally hitting every fire escape on the way down. And I'm like, this guy survived? Come on,
and
man.
That's all of John Wick 4. That scene at the end of John Wick 3 is the entirety of John Wick 4.
God. But it looks as though Donnie Yen is getting his opportunity to shine here, as he's going to begin his own spinoff movie. Let's check this out. It says Lionsgate is developing a John Wick spinoff movie around Donnie Yen's Kane assassin character. Yen will reprise his role from John Wick 4 in the Untitled project set to shoot in Hong Kong in 2025. The franchise expanding film, with no director yet announced, will also follow the events of John Wick 4, as Kane has been freed from his obligations to the High Table. It also reads here that the project will also follow Yen, a veteran Hong Kong action hero, pushing back against what he claimed was Asian stereotypes in the original script for John Wick 4. After some prodding, John Wick 4 director Chad Stahelski agreed to change the name and clothes for Yen's character. China-born Yen is a household name internationally thanks to his hugely popular and acclaimed Ip Man movie series. He also crossed over with Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and also along with the live-action remake of Mulan. This is what they had to say here. He says, working on John Wick 4 was an extraordinary experience. The reason these films resonate so deeply is because, like myself, Chad, Basil, and Erica pushed themselves to create action, fights, and stunts that are not only thrilling, inventive, and artistic, but also expressive of character, story, and emotion. Kane is an incredible character with a haunted past, and I'm excited to return to the role, is what Donnie Yen said in the statement. It says Chaz Stahelski is developing the spin-off movie around Yen's Kane character as part of the recently announced deal with Lionsgate to expand the John Wick universe. They do also highlight the ballerina spin-off will be overseen by the franchise's producers. So yeah, man, I'm really excited for this. I think the appealing part too is the idea that Chad Stahelski is back. I think the fact that I don't know how involved he's going to be when it comes to actually writing it. I mean, he says that he is developing this movie, so maybe he is sort of the heart and the writer behind this also. Whether or not it's something that he's going to direct, we'll definitely have to wait and see. But if Chad's on board with this and he's given it his blessing, I do think this is going to be in a pretty incredible movie, man. If you have not seen Ip Man, I highly recommend checking out. I believe it's like a trilogy of films. I don't know if they ever did a fourth one or not.
Actually, they did a fourth one.
They did do a fourth one?
Was it the fourth one that had Mike Tyson in it?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you haven't checked them out, please go ahead and do so. I personally still have not watched John Wick 4. I was thinking about trying to knock this out last night before we talked about it, but me and the girlfriend ended up watching The Iron Claw yesterday with Zac Efron instead. So I definitely
how was that?
I really enjoyed it. I'm surprised that Zac Efron didn't get nominated for his role, to be quite frank with you. But or at least maybe that's going to be this year. We'll see. I don't know, but I enjoyed The Iron Claw for sure. But getting back to the John Wick spinoff here, I'm all for this, man. I'm really looking forward to the ballerina. I know the Continental didn't necessarily work for some people. I don't know how far separated that series was from Chad Stahelski's involvement, or if they really took their own kind of liberties or not. But Ballerina, I'm excited for, and I don't think I would ever be disappointed in seeing Donnie Yen in any sort of action film. So I'm excited for this. What about you, Stu?
I'm definitely excited for this. Weirdly enough, I haven't seen the Continental yet, and I think part of it is that I don't know. I just got thrown off when I found out Mel Gibson was going to be the main star. I think that kind of threw me off. But I'll still probably check it out eventually. As for, this movie, really excited. I think one thing that works so well about the world of John Wick is that every character that we get introduced to in every movie is always intriguing enough to where you want to know more about them, but they give you just enough of those characters to make you want more. And his character is no exception. It's interesting hearing about the stuff that he actually kind of worked with the director to make sure his character didn't come off as too much of a stereotype. I actually didn't hear about that behind the scenes stuff. So I'm hoping that, assuming, especially with this actually filming internationally, I'm assuming he'll probably have, some say here and there, be able to have his voice be known of what he would like to see with this character going forward. And yeah, there is something that gets set up at the end of John Wick 4. And timeline wise, I don't know how it would work, because for this show to make sense, it probably would have to be a prequel. But at the same time, I could see it doing this show taking place in multiple timelines. So I could see it also continuing from the big cliffhanger we left off in John Wick 4. Very curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I got to think that when it comes to involvement, I got to think Donnie is going to be really close to this project. If him and Chad were able to work so closely in regards to developing the Kane character for John Wick 4, I gotta think some suggestions from Donnie Yen and how he wants this series to go is probably crept in there too. So I wouldn't be surprised if Donnie Yen's like an executive producer on this or whatever the case may be. So I am looking forward to that. And I would agree with you, Stuart. I think the one thing that I love about John Wick is the lore and the mythology that it builds, but so many really compelling characters that he winds up meeting that that their stories just go down a really crazy rabbit hole in regards to like how they even know John Wick in the first place, or their own involvement in this crazy assassin world. I mean, like I will probably pass this, but I'm still waiting for more of Halle Berry's story to be told.
Mhm.
Like, does she ever get reunited with her daughter? What was the story behind that? Right. Like, I think they do such a great job of allowing these characters to really live in their own world and give us just enough to be enticed with them to want to learn more about who they are. So, the fact that we got introduced to even this ballerina aspect of things in, was it John Wick 2 or was that 3? I can't remember.
That one was 2, yeah.
With 2, right? And now they're expanding upon it with the ballerina movie itself. That's just a whole nother avenue and world within the John Wick universe that looks pretty incredible. So give me more, man. Give me more. And the fact that Chad is a part of this makes me definitely want to go ahead and check out this movie, certainly when it drops. That definitely gives me a little bit more faith. But yeah, guys, we want to know your thoughts. How do you feel about the idea of Donnie Yen coming back to go ahead and play Kane in his own film? Marcelino says, finally, Chad is making other spinoffs that he wants to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so he wasn't on board with the Continental?
I really don't think so. There's a part of me that thinks that it was completely separate, but maybe I'm wrong. He says the Continental was all right, not the greatest story, and I felt like the characters were more gimmicks than characters. Cool action and cinematography. What about you, Adam? I know you watched it. I think I watched the first episode and then I just never went back. It just didn't. It didn't hook me, unfortunately. Maybe it's certainly worth giving a fair shot, but I don't really have a fair criticism of it just because I personally haven't finished it. Nathan Moore says, I watched the first episode of Continental and it wasn't for me. Hopefully this will be great. And I guess that's probably the same sentiment. Like, it just felt off to me in the first episode. I don't know what it was. It just felt like a little bit of a disconnect, or maybe the pacing of it. I'm not quite sure, but it definitely didn't make me eager to like, oh, I can't wait to watch the second episode, so it might be a more chore to watch the show.
Sorry, this is super unrelated, but I'm just now noticing, I wonder if there's like a way to change the focus for my camera, because it kind of feels like my face is blurred, but my background is more detailed than my face.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I can see you okay, but I kind of see what you're saying, but you don't look super blurry to me.
Oh yeah, not like super blurred, but just like fuzzier than the background. It's weird that some of the stuff in my background seems more crisp.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean for sure. Sam says it'd be interesting, John Wick as an anime. Ooh, that would be pretty cool. I'd be down for that.
I think that is the perfect franchise that you could do like animated spin-offs with.
Speaking of animated, let's dive into our next
series.
That
was a perfect segment, yeah. Or segue, yeah.
Speaking of animated series, Terminator is back in the news, believe it or not. I can't remember if we highlighted or talked about this before, but Terminator is actually getting an animated series over on Netflix, y'all. This past week, Entertainment Weekly actually gave us our exclusive first look at the brand new series. And I think this is really going to tap into something that Terminator fans have been looking forward to for a really long time. At least I'm hoping so, because God knows this franchise could really use a boost. I know a lot of people have been rather down on some of the last entries that we've had, whether that be Genesis or Genesis, however you want to pronounce it, Dark Fate, which kind of underwhelmed people. But could Terminator Zero be the salvation? See what I did there? For this particular franchise and making it work. And so I thought it'd be really cool to go ahead and dive into not only this article, but also show you guys some first look images that we wind up getting from it as well. But this is from Entertainment Weekly. The sci-fi saga is taken to Tokyo. So it looks like that's where the main everything happens in that story is going to be taking place over in Japan. And it says Mattson Tomlin, the showrunner and executive producer behind the new anime series, tell EW how he embraced the horror vibe of the first two films. So let's go ahead and dive into this. It says when Mattson Tomlin, a writer on Batman Part 2 and Project Power, sat down to pen Terminator Zero, he hit a hurdle he wasn't expecting. He says it didn't have anything to do with continuity, which feels like the obvious head scratcher, given all the time tampering across 6 movies. As Tomlin tells Entertainment Weekly, the show treats all the past films as canon, Stuart. He says, we're not going to pretend that the 3rd movie didn't happen. We're not going to pretend that the 6th movie didn't happen. So he's taking that all into account. He says
that like is interesting, because my big question there is how.
How, right? Yeah, how are you gonna piece all these pieces together? But he goes on to say, he says, no, the specific challenges related to the setting itself. The powers at be at Netflix and Skydance wanted Terminator Zero to be some kind of Japanese component. Tomlin took it a step further and set the 8-episode anime. So we're getting 8 episodes in Japan. He says, I was aware that there aren't really guns in Japan, and I don't think it quite appreciated how real that was, he says of his predicament. He says, perfect example, his first pass at season 1 scripts featured a sequence where violence breaks out all over Tokyo, prompting citizens to pull out firearms. He says, my partner at production IG came back and said, hey, so there are no guns in Japan. He says, if we needed a gun, we don't know where we would get it. He says, it was just such a stunning moment for me. Like, oh, wow, I am an American. So, yeah, it definitely shows the differences there. He says that instance is a good indication of how Terminator Zero breaks from what audiences have come to expect from this franchise. It's less busting into a neighbor's car to grab the pistol that just so happens to be in the glove compartment, or and more sword fights with the Terminator that was blades for arms. He says there's also a definite Taxi Driver kind of vibe in there. He says, if I was going to fight a Terminator and I don't have guns, what are the weapons that I could concoct? He says the biggest deviation with the anime, however, is the lack of the Connors family, Sarah and John. He says Terminator will ditch the core faces of the franchise, thus far to focus on a set of wholly original characters. So we are going to be getting ourselves brand new characters in here. It says, I think it's time to go into new characters and not burden ourselves with another John and Sarah Connor saga. There's been a run at that couple of different times. There are a lot of callbacks to the other films. Fans who really know the movies are going to be doing the Leo meme from the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But it's not the way he's pointing at the screen like, oh, I know that guy.
Have that one.
Yeah. He says, but it's not going to be as direct as John Connor walks in, because John Connor does not walk in. It says it primarily takes place in Japan in the year 1997, on the cusp of Judgment Day, the pivotal moment where Skynet's military AI network becomes self-aware, leading to decades-spanning war. There are still familiar Terminator beats. A soldier from the hellish future is sent back to protect the scientist named Malcolm Lee, who is working to launch a competing AI system to Skynet. An unrelenting machine assassin in the disguise of a human is hunting him, which also puts his 3 children in harm's way. I wonder if that's this guy, or maybe there's somebody else that they have in store. He says, I knew I wanted to tell a time travel story, and I knew I wanted to tell it almost Godfather-like, generational saga that would ultimately follow his family with these kids. What I wanted to do is, if we do a multiple seasons, is to see these kids grow up and see who they become. So yeah, those are just some of the tidbits of information here. How are you feeling about what you're hearing so far, Stu?
I look forward to it. We haven't. I haven't been a fan of the Terminator movies since, Terminator 2. I mean, I thought like there were definitely some okay ones that were released in the meantime. Like, I actually didn't hate the last one, Dark Fate. I actually thought that one was okay, and it was like the first one of the sequels that actually felt like it was written by a Terminator fan, rather than someone that just read a Wikipedia article. But then you got like, the one that came before it, which is Terminator Genesis, which I think is probably one of the worst films ever made. Like, it is definitely in the top 20 worst movies like ever
Damn.
made. And then, Terminator Salvation, which was, again, I put that one as okay. And then Terminator 3 again, okay. So I look forward to this. I guess currently my expectations are kind of moderate. I've learned the hard way never to get my hopes up too high for a Terminator movie, or even a TV show. But I think this is a good new direction to take it. They've tried several times at a new movie, and it's always failed. So I think that if after the fourth time you can't succeed, let's just move to something else, and that's what they're doing. So I'm glad that everything seems new. We're not focusing on the Connors anymore. We're focusing on new characters. The thing I do find very weird, though, is like I brought up to you, the fact that they're trying to say that all 6 movies are going to be canon to this. That's, if you can somehow pull that off, that's impressive. I don't know how that would make sense. How you could possibly put them in the same universe, because they constantly contradict each other. That'd be like trying to put all the X-Men movies in the same universe. There's just no continuity. So I don't know how that's going to work. If someone can draw me a graph and tell me how the Terminator movies can fit into the same universe, that would be great. I've tried myself to figure it out. I actually have wanted to write my own Terminator movie where I could fit everything in together, and I couldn't do it. So this is coming from a huge Terminator fan. So I'm very curious to see how this anime does it. Art looks great. And the number one thing that gets me excited for this is he brings up the horror aspect from the first 2 movies, especially the first movie. Like, the very end, like, of that movie, like the chasing at the end, where we really get to see him, full body skeleton, was terrifying. And then just the fact that you're being chased by something that can't be destroyed, and by something that like no one's going to believe you about too. Like, that in itself as a concept is terrifying enough. And you really get to see the horror of that, like at the end when he's just like his robotic skeleton, mixture of puppet and stop motion. Like, that's when the movie gets really, really intense, like at the very end. So if we get to see more of that in this show, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, he says he very much inspired from the first 2 Terminator films. He says, although a certain rifle-touting robot with a thick Austrian accent might not be popping up in the anime, he wanted to emulate the feeling of uncertainty, though, as to who's good and who's bad. He does point to Kyle Reese from the first film. He says, you don't know what's going on with that guy. You don't know that he is the hero. He says it's a similar way for Terminator Zero. They're all these original characters. We don't know who anybody is. All those answers are going to absolutely be revealed, and they'll be revealed pretty quickly. The inspiration comes further in the tone of the series. Unlike later installments, he has what Tomlin describes as muscular sci-fi action. He actually embraced the horror elements of director James Cameron's movies. He says there's a completely valid reason of the Terminator franchise where the Terminator is synonymous with like Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, where he's this unrelenting serial killer. There's a little bit of Friday the 13th in there. There's a little bit of Michael Myers in there, just no guns. And so this series is set to go ahead and drop on Netflix Thursday, August 29th. So August 29th, ladies and gentlemen, mark your calendars for that. So yeah, I'm excited for this one, man.
Definitely. Yeah. And then, what else? There's one other. Oh yeah. That what you just brought up about like being uncertain of who's going to be the good guy and the bad guy, it actually does remind me of what made the opening of Terminator 2 like one of the most genius openings ever, because we're introduced to 2 characters with no background on either of them. We get the Terminator that looks exactly like the bad guy from the first movie because it's played by Arnold Schwarzenegger again, and then we get a skinny looking dude who we don't know much about. We know that he kills the first cop that he sees, but we don't know that he killed him. We just see that he needed a uniform and in order to blend in. So, the very beginning of the movie, you don't know who you're kind of under the assumption that the smaller looking dude that doesn't look that strong is going to be the hero, the one trying to protect John Connor. So when you see him looking for John and John's running away from him, there's a part of me that's like, no, trust this guy. He's trying to save you. And then he runs into Arnold Schwarzenegger carrying the gun. You're thinking, oh crap. And then it wasn't until the moment Arnold goes, get down, that we realized, oh, he's the good guy in this.
Yeah.
So I would love to see a scene kind of like that in the anime. I love Terminator 2 so much. I will praise it like,
I mean, some people say it's one of
the
the best action films. So
it might be my favorite action movie, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you, man. We got Nathan in here. He says this makes sense. This is perfect for the franchise. I think so too. I think you can get away with some really great things in animation, and the franchise could really use a win right now.
Yes.
Ram Jam, I'm interested in seeing the animated Terminator series. If it goes well, might there be a chance of Terminator versus RoboCop to become a reality? I don't know. Are they in the same universe?
They've had so many video games and comic book movie crossovers,
right?
or comic book crossovers, not movies. But yeah, I could see it happening. An animated Terminator versus RoboCop. That'd be badass.
Blossom says Terminator animated. Yeah, absolutely, Blossom. They had some great images. Hope you got the chance to check those out. Ramjan says Linda Hamilton says she's done with the Terminator franchise. I don't blame her. He says I wasn't a fan of Terminator. The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Wow, I'm surprised, Sam.
I actually never watched that series, funny enough. I call myself a Terminator fan. I've never even seen the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
I say check it out. One, I'm a huge fan of Summer Glau, who plays the Terminator in there, or at least the protector of John Connor, which I was so thrilled that they went with a female as sort of the Terminator in that sense. But I think Summer pulls it off incredibly well. I'm just surprised that Sam wasn't a big fan, just because I do feel like people that have been a part of the Transformers, the Terminator franchise. I feel like a lot of people really even want to see that show rebooted, or they kind of call back to that series as being one of the better installments of Terminator in a long time. But to each their own. Not everybody's gonna like everything. But I was a fan of the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I thought it was too quickly canceled, unfortunately. And I'm trying to think. Wasn't the lady from Game of Thrones who played Cersei? I think she played Sarah Connor in that series, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat.
No, you're right. In fact, I think that's the key. If you want to play Sarah Connor, now you have to start out at Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's the key.
Much like if you want to be in a Superman project, you got to start out on The Walking Dead.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Terminator Zero, set to go ahead and drop on Netflix August 29th. But yeah, thanks, guys. We got 18 people watching us over on Twitter right now, 9 over on YouTube. Look, guys, if you're on YouTube watching this right now, do us a big favor, man. Hit that like button. It definitely does go a long way. Share these videos. And if you're watching us on Twitter, hit that like and retweet, man. Let people know A+ Hero Report is currently live today.
It's one click for YouTubers. And if you're on Twitter, just 2 clicks. Just click that link and then click that like. And it would be very, very appreciated.
Yeah, and guess what? They're both free. They're both free.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to pay us anything, just the likes are very appreciated is all.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that out of the way, Stuart, are you ready to get into some live viewer questions with me?
I am indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into our live viewer questions segment of the day. How do you submit your live viewer questions? First and foremost, let me apologize to everybody. I did not get the opportunity to drop the live viewer question post as of yesterday, but I did drop it earlier this morning. So hopefully everybody got the opportunity to go ahead and submit any of their questions in. But if you didn't, now is this time to go ahead and drop it. Let's see here. So for those of you who want to know, how do I submit a live viewer question? It's pretty simple. Just go over to our YouTube channel, as you see right here. Click on that community tab. And usually every Saturday, we will drop our live viewer questions. Like I said, normally I have it ready for I dropped it late today on Sunday, but it usually is up there on by the end of Saturday for sure. And we got a couple of comments. Looks like we maybe have like 7 comments here. I did also post this over on Threads. If you guys aren't following us on Threads, we are over on Threads also. You can catch us at A+ Opinions over on Threads if you want to follow up with us there. I don't believe we have any. I did post over live viewer questions over on Threads, but I don't believe we got any questions. Although somebody did say, oh, somebody did put up a post over on Threads that I responded to. It says, as a Spider-Man fan, is Madam Web worth watching on Netflix? Because it is currently up on Netflix, and I think it might be like
Ooh, I might watch it finally.
I think it might be like on the top 10 already. Maybe even like number 1 right now over on Netflix. I mean, it just feels like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I look at the top 10 on Netflix and I watch one of the movies, I feel like 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 times, I'm like, what the is this? Like, I just feel like the people watching these movies have like the worst taste in movies. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me that Madam Web is so high on Netflix. It just feels very much like a Netflix type of film in the sense of don't spend your money. If you're going to watch it, go ahead and watch it. I voted for no, stay far away. Even if it is on Madam Web, stay far away. 25% said maybe for background noise. I think that's what I voted. I'm sorry. I was part of the 25% that said maybe for background noise. 57% said no, stay far away. And 17% said yes, it's not that bad. So yeah, take that as you will, Stuart. Good luck to you, my friend, if you decide to go ahead and check out Madam Web. I definitely want to know your thoughts on it, though.
I don't think it's bad taste though why it's number 1. I think just like in general people love to hate watch, and that's kind of why one of HBO Max's most successful cartoons is getting a season 2. I don't think there's anyone who watches Velma for enjoyment. I think it's a show that is as popular as it is because of how many people hate watch it.
I mean, you might be onto something.
I think that's why Madam Web is number 1 currently, because no one saw it in theaters because they wanted to wait till it got home and they can get drunk with their friends and all just like hate watch it together, which something beautiful about that. Not going to lie. I enjoy hate watching when it's like for fun.
I love it. You might absolutely be right in that regards. But let's go ahead and dive into these questions. For those, this is from Blossom first. What's up, Blossom? For those who grew up with the golden age of Marvel cartoons, the 90s, which ones are your favorites? Oh my God.
See, I would say X-Men only because as a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch that cartoon, the original 90s X-Men cartoon. And when I wasn't allowed to watch something, I automatically loved it so much more. So the X-Men cartoon was probably my favorite, but I definitely watched a lot more of the Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, X-Men and Spider-Man were up there for me just because they were both Fox. They might have even come back to back. I mean, they were just an integral part of my Saturday morning cartoons, so it was really easy for me to just sit down and watch like a two-hour block of cartoons back in the 90s. So yeah, definitely X-Men and Spider-Man, and I even had an affinity for the Iron Man. I don't remember if Iron Man was Fox or if that came on like ABC or CBS back in the day. I can't remember if it was a separate channel or not, but I used to love Iron Man. I don't remember watching too much of like the Fantastic Four or the Incredible Hulk stuff. So those were probably like my top 3 cartoons as far as like Marvel cartoons at the time.
Yeah. You know how people will say Endgame is the most epic crossover of all time? You know what I think is the most epic crossover, speaking of that area of cartoons? So there was a Silver Surfer cartoon, of course, it was the last
Great
cartoon
animation
that would air right before Fox would shift into the adult programs. So they had a cross promo cartoon where it was Hank Hill from King of the Hill and Silver Surfer, because they were advertising the transition into adult cartoons. So you
Wow.
have Hank talking with the Silver Surfer, and I don't know why. For me, that is like the funniest thing on the planet.
I'm gonna have to YouTube and see if we can find that commercial for sure.
Oh yeah, like I think it was trending for a while, and that's how I found out about it.
See if you
I
can
wish
find
I
it
could
real
claim
quick.
I watched it live back in the day. I didn't.
Click on YouTube. See if you can find that. If you can find it real quick.
Yes.
Sam does clarify. Yeah, Iron Man cartoon on Fox Kids was awesome. Yeah, so I guess it was on Fox also. And I do remember the Silver Surfer series. I remember specifically for its animation style, because it literally felt like it ripped Jack Kirby's art style right from the pages. I just really enjoyed how it looked visually. But yeah, those were some of my favorites.
Okay, I found it. Give me 2 seconds to screen share it real quick.
I mean, if you could pull up the video, I don't know if it'll let you pull up the video itself, like share the video, a share screen.
Yeah, that's I got the video pulled up. I always forget since I don't do it often.
It should be here. Let me stop sharing this real quick. It should be the present button at the bottom. You click on that.
Your screen. Oh, here we go. Cool. And share. All right, cool.
Oh my god.
Have you ever considered propane as an alternative energy source for that board of yours? With a little retooling, I could get it to work. Tell you what I'm going to do. Being that you're my neighbor and I like you, I'm going to give you the new neighbor discount and a free t-shirt. So what do you say?
Take a ride on the Cosmic Tide.
Wow.
To Silver Surfer next, as Fox Kids Heads for the Hills continues.
Wow.
Repeat business like that, I could eventually be supplying propane galaxy-wide.
Wow. What a gem. What a gem.
Yeah,
fantastic.
like I said, I wish I could claim that I saw that live back in the day. I didn't. It was just trending on YouTube one day, and I'm like, this can't be real. And lo and behold, that was a real ad.
I don't remember that being a part of Fox Kids though. King on the Hill. I don't know why.
It wasn't. It was like just the transition from kids to
more adult animation.
Adult programming in general.
I get you. I thought it was like Silver Surfer and then King of the Hill next. Sort of like that just feels so weird to me. But okay, I get what you're saying. But all right.
Also,
Spider-Man Unlimited.
Sorry, last thing, and then we can move on from this question. It's so funny how much trivia I have about this era of cartoons. But they were asking about Spider-Man Limited. Did see it. Was not a fan of that show for a lot of reasons. Something that was funny is that it was considered a sequel to the animated Spider-Man TV show for a while.
Really?
But thanks to Beyond the Spider-Verse, and even more so thanks to X-Men 97, I think we can safely say that those two shows are now in a different continuity, since we get a cameo from both the 90s Spider-Man in X-Men 97 and of course in Beyond the Spider-Verse, and he doesn't appear to be wearing the costume from Spider-Man Unlimited.
Yeah, I didn't know that at all. So I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that to our attention, because I really had no idea about that. That was even meant to be connected in that sense. Let's see here. Blossom also says, have you guys ever made up any? Let me know if the music is too loud, guys. If it's too loud, I can go ahead and drop it down a little bit. But Blossom says, have you guys ever made up any Rangers of your own when you were kids? If you don't mind if I use them for my stories. No, I'm copyright. No, you can't. I was just kidding. No, I don't remember creating any of my own Rangers as a kid though, Blossom. So I don't got nothing to share with you, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
I never created my own Rangers as a kid, but because I was limited on how many action figures I had, I would come up with stories where, they would Dragon Ball Z style fuse into one Ranger who was all powerful.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty dope.
Yeah, I'm surprised they actually haven't done that on the show yet. I guess the closest you get is Megaforce with the 6th Ranger, but even then, it's not like they physically fuse.
And then we also have Marcelino with some questions. What's up, Marcelino, man? Appreciate you coming through. He says, when it comes to cases like Colton Haynes, Keenan Lonsdale, Sierra Renee Harper, and many others, they all left their respective shows for their own personal reasons. Do you think it was a mistake for the CW to not recast them? Because by not recasting them, it screwed up any story plans they initially had planned. The original plan for Arrow was to slowly build on the classic team Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Arsenal. Hawkgirl was originally planned to be a tentpole character, basically filling in Sarah's role, maybe even becoming a founding member of the Justice League. And Riders of the Legends wanted to use the Marie McCabe version of Vixen, but Megalyn, I'm even going to try and pronounce her name, Ichikanwoke, was unavailable, so they instead created a new character, her grandmother, Amaya Jawi.
I think it was just because she was too woke to come in, because it's like in her name. So, but no, like for me, I blame Marvel, because Marvel is kind of the franchise. While they recast in the beginning, I feel like after that, Marvel was the one that really established the idea of an actor makes the character and not the character itself, which I kind of agree with and disagree with at the same time. To me, I think that if it's in a disservice to the story, then you shouldn't be afraid to recast. I think like all these examples are examples of what would have been a better written story had they just recasted these actors rather than trying to write them out of a show, especially for a TV show when you're planning things, and especially if it's their choice to leave too. This isn't like a touchy situation like it was with Black Panther, where you had an actor that actually passed away. These are actors that just didn't want to play the characters anymore. And I think that if you're going to leave a character that you played, you have to accept that someone else is going to play that character. That's how it goes, because the show must go on,
Yeah, because I honestly would have been perfectly okay with the recasting of some of these. Colton Haynes, I always wanted to return, but I really liked him as Arsenal. And so there was a part of me that was thinking to myself, at least in Colton's position, no, I don't necessarily want him to be recast. To me, it kind of paid off, because he does come back and have some interesting moments, but I always felt like those moments were really short-lived. Like I always felt there was always more meat on the bone for Arsenal's story to be told, and he just never stuck around long enough for them to go ahead and do that. And I know Haynes had his like Marcelino says, they all left certainly for their own personal reasons. But I think for me, if anybody, like out of all these characters, if there's anybody's that felt natural to kind of go away and come back, I always felt it was Colton Haynes as Arsenal. So I didn't really mind that situation so much. In regards to Keenan Lonsdale and Sierra Harper, I had a really good time with Hawkgirl and Hawkman storyline and Legends of Tomorrow. So I absolutely wanted them to return for season 2. I thought they were going to even build upon the Thangarian War and maybe even give her own spinoff. In that case, I would have been okay with recasting her at that point if they knew she wasn't going to come back for a season 2. And Keenan Lonsdale, I've just never cared for him so much as an actor. Not to say that Colton Haynes himself was like Emmy nominated at any time or any point. I just didn't really care for how they handled the Wally West character in general. With that being said, I did enjoy seeing him return when he finally did to the show, very briefly for that brief period of time. But the back and forth and coming and going just never really sat too right with me. So in regards to Keenan and Sierra's situation, I totally would have recasted them in order to get more storyline out of them, quite frankly. But that's just me.
I would be curious, because for the longest time I was under the assumption that Keenan left because the writers didn't know what to do with his character. But then I also hear people on the opposite side saying, "Oh no, they gave him less to do because they knew he was leaving." So it's kind of a chicken or the eggs thing with Keenan Lonsdale. If it turns out that he left because, which is the one that I think actually happened, which is that the writers didn't know what to do with him. Yeah, I think that's definitely way more on the writers.
For who, Keenan?
Yeah, for Wally West, because I feel like there were plenty of stories they could have done with him. I think maybe the problem was that they introduced him as Kid Flash too early. They should have kept him as just Wally West a little bit longer before pulling the trigger of making him, Kid Flash.
And I always thought Colton and Keenan always left because of mental health issues. I always thought it was the stress of the show or even their own. Like, I think for Keenan, it might have even just been the concept of trying to find himself and who he certainly was kind of as a person. Because I think Keenan has really come a long way in regards to transformation for who he is, just certainly as a person, So I think there was probably a lot of maybe self-doubt and unsure as to like what route you kind of want to go in life. But again, I don't want to put words in Keenan Lonsdale's mouth. That's just what I was always under the impression with, honestly. But to each their own, though. Marcelino says, I think you're the only person who liked Hawk Girl, because that's why everyone was happy that she left and never returned. And to each their own, man. I mean, some characters just hit other people a certain way. And yeah, for me, I really wanted to see more of Hawk Girl. Marcia says, I think opposite Stuart. I thought seeing the season 3 was perfect to introduce Kid Flash. Nathan says, I hate how Marvel did that with Black Panther and by erasing T'Challa. So everybody has certainly their own perspectives of how do you handle that idea when an actor doesn't want to return or leaves. Do you replace them? Do you just drop the character in general? I think it's always going to be debatable for sure.
Yeah. Again, I will say this, of course, with Black Panther, it was kind of a no-win situation, no matter which direction they went in. They were going to get backlash either way,
Yeah, I agree. Mostly, if MMPR was only ever one season, would it still have the same MMPR nostalgia it has today? To clarify, let's say hypothetically Saban wanted to adapt several seasons of Super Sentai, each being self-contained with a different cast aside from crossovers. MMPR using the same cast has the same story for a year, and once it ends, they move on to Die Ranger and use a different cast and tell a different story.
I don't know. That's a good question.
If I had to take a crack at it, I would say no. I don't think, if it was only one season and come the next season, season 2, they move on to a different move on to Die Ranger and use a different cast and tell a different story, then no, I don't think so. I think MMPR becomes sort of a blip on the radar at that point. I think that MMPR nostalgia comes from the idea that we as fans that watched it from the beginning literally grew up with these characters. Like, we got them for multiple seasons, watch some of them leave, watch some of them come back in different forms, different shapes. All of that honestly really added to, I think, the impact of MMPR and why it stuck around and was as impactful for us. Like, I don't want to compare the Dino Fury cast, but that might be like, Dino Fury might be the new generation's MMPR in that sense, that we've got an opportunity to stick with these cast members, grow up with them. But I think the idea that we got so many seasons with that cast, and even going into something like Zeo with that cast, I think even helps amplify MMPR certainly that much more. So no, if it was just only one season, I don't think it would have the same nostalgia as we have today. What's your reaction when Cicada was announced to be the main villain of The Flash season 5, and that his motivations would be to eradicate metahumans? I didn't know who Cicada was before, but when he said that his motivations was to kill metahumans, I remember being astounded, because me and my other friends for the longest time clamored for a main villain that was a metahuman hater, thinking it could cause some interesting conflict with Barry, because now he would have to fight a villain that he couldn't just punch his way out of, and how it could affect the Arrowverse as a whole. I know Cicada had poor execution, but his concept alone had the potential to make him an S-tier villain, or maybe that was an A-tier villain. Bonus round. I just wanted to clarify here where I got my sources for Silk not becoming the lead in the series. Okay, so he does give some leads. I'll definitely look into that, so I appreciate that, Marcelino. But yeah, what was your reaction when Cicada was announced to be the main villain of season 5, and that his motivation would be to eradicate metahumans?
With the villain himself and his motivation, I was super hyped. Yeah, I thought that was a great concept for a villain. I thought there was a lot of potential, and Boy, there were a lot of missteps though when it came to the writing, and not to be an asshole. Actually, I'm going to be an asshole here. Honestly, when it came to the casting, I'm sorry. He never once felt intimidating. Maybe it's because I am way too familiar with his American Pie days, but they did not cast an intimidating actor at all. And I say that knowing that this guy is 3 times my size and could probably kick my ass easily. He just didn't look intimidating to me.
No, I feel you. Hold on, let me I was definitely gonna have you answer that question because I barely remember that season. I just remember I didn't really care for Cicada as a character, so I was definitely gonna let you handle that one.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just looking at this article that Marcelino sent. Silk, I remember this article. This is from February 17th. Silk's Spider Society writers' room paused at Amazon. Clarification: we've updated the story below to reflect that the Silk writers' room has been paused, according to sources close to the studio, though the show remains in active development. An early version said that the room had been scrapped. In the meantime, many writers and staffers on the series have been released to pursue other work. Where did it go? There was one source close to the series claims Silk has been refocused with more of a male skewing audience in mind. Amazon had no comment. So I do wonder if the idea of them, this was back in February 17th of this year. So I do wonder if maybe the idea of them skewing the storyline itself, even upon maybe rewriting it, maybe they were just like, this ain't working for us anymore. But what's fascinating, this article was written February 17th. Do you know when Madam Web released, Stuart?
February 8th. What was it, 16th or 18th?
Close to 14th. Valentine's Day.
So like really close after Madam Web.
So really close after Madam Web. They were like, maybe we should refocus and pause what we have right now. So I don't know. It definitely lines up to me in the sense of like maybe they maybe what happened with Madam Web gave them cold feet, but who knows. What else we got here? Peg C, what's up, Peg C? I was thinking about potential crossovers. What do you think about Voltron and Transformers as a crossover? Yeah, give it to me, man. I would absolutely love it.
Yeah, I could see that working really well.
Marcelino clarified, not A tier. He said S tier. I thought he meant maybe A tier, but he says S tier means God level. Why does that mean? Is that like super powered?
Yeah.
Like OP?
Like okay. S tier powers.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on an article from X-Men 97 creator of X-Men 97 5-season plan?
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. So far from what I have seen from the writing and from just like the potential storylines that they could tell, yeah, I could definitely see this show going on for 5 years or for 5 seasons if Marvel's willing to keep it going. The problem is that like TV shows, it's so weird because 5 seasons used to be nothing back in the day, but now it's like you're kind of lucky if you get past 3. So I hope the best for it.
Yeah, it says the creator has unveiled a plan for 5 seasons of the celebrated Star Wars, Marvel Studios animation. Somebody on Twitter says, "Hey, Bo, for the season 1 finale, will we have sort of a closure, or will it be a major cliffhanger that we go crazy waiting for season 2?" He says, "Thank you. I'd like you to discover the answer to this on your own, but I will say I had a 5-season plan." So yeah, interesting.
Sweet.
So yeah, I mean, look, they are very much committed to still giving us seasons 2 and 3 of this show. I have even heard them say, "Look, we'll continue to go on as long as people keep watching." So if anything, I would assume that they would at least keep it to the 5 seasons that were originally planned, though. Did you know that in the original TMNT movie and in The Secret of the Ooze that the suit actors made cameos as civilians?
I did not.
I thought the suit actor for Leonardo in the first one, wasn't he the Wasn't he like the main kid in Secret of the Ooze? I thought that was helping them out.
I didn't know that. If that's the case, I didn't know that.
I thought it was. I thought it was.
Fun fact, though, my dad actually worked with the actor that played the suit actor that played Raphael. They were both cops back in the day.
Christopher Throbin says, do you like cheese?
Yes, I like the cheese, like the food, and I like a little cheese in my cinema. So give me something cheesy.
Yeah, I don't mind the occasional cheesy factor for sure. Marcelino says S tier is an internet slang thing. Yeah, see, I'm 41 years old, man. I don't keep up with this stuff anymore. It passes me by. I'm too old for this shit, man.
If we were to ever do like a tier list, what would we want to do a tier list for?
Oh, like shows or movies?
Like, actually, yeah. Like, what if we, you, me, and Indy, like all together, did our own like tier list for Power Rangers seasons or something like that?
Oh man, we would get booed terribly right off the bat.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be funny because I feel like all three of us would disagree, and so it would be like we'd be on the same season for like an hour. Like one of us, like Indy, probably being like, no, Mystic Force should be S tier. Me being like, I can see it as B tier. You're like, oh no, D tier.
I wonder how we would make a consensus. Like, could we even make a consensus of that out of the three of us? I don't even know. I think we'd have to make Indy watch all the seasons. I don't even know if he's watched all the seasons.
I'm not sure, actually. Yeah, I know he's watched a few.
Yeah, he's watched a few. I might need you to bring up Johnny's question for me. Oh, never mind. He says, "Hey, Adam, one question." Okay, never mind. He clarifies it. He numbered it, and so I was like, "Where's number 2 and 3 at?" But he answered my question. What do you hope to see announced for Boom Studios Power Rangers at San Diego Comic-Con this year? Can they do a what if series? Can they? Is that taken? Like, I guess they can't call it what if. They'd have to create something else behind it, huh?
Yeah, just call it the Power Rangers Tales of the Grid or something like that.
Ooh, I dig that. I would be down for that. I would like to see Amy Jo Johnson's story get an ongoing series too. I thought there was another cool aspect that I had heard from somebody on Twitter, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
You know what they hinted at back in the day, and they still have never actually gone through with this one. Back when, what was that comic called? With Tommy Oliver. It was like the
Soul of the Dragon.
Soul of the Dragon. That's what it was. I knew it was something of the dragon. But yeah, Soul of the Dragon. They implied that there was going to be an SPD spinoff where it would have been about 10 years after the events of SPD. And we would have gotten a return to the original Red Ranger from the series, but he would have been kind of more of a special agent. So he still would have been doing his own thing of charity work. But then on the side, if they needed him for a very specific mission, that's when they would call him in for.
That would be an interesting take. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, building upon that. I think maybe we talked about this last week or the previous week. I think a Zeo series would be really cool to kind of see them take that next step forward. So I'd be cool to kind of see something like that. Jessica Friedman, would you like to see an animated MCU series set in the would you like to see an animated MCU series set in the same 90s universe as X-Men 97 and has casting begun? Who will play Toph in the second season of Avatar? Do you know if they've cast for Toph yet?
They haven't casted for Toph yet, not that I know of. I don't have any ideas of who would play Toph, but for context, in season 3, they had a recap episode where you essentially the main characters, they go to a stage play, and it's the main villains, the Fire Nation, doing their own production on the story of the Avatar so far. And they have this funny joke where there's this giant muscular man playing Toph, and he's like, "My name is Toph because it rhymes with tough." So for that character, the one playing Toph within the Avatar universe, I want them to get John Cena to play Tough.
Oh, nice. Okay. Going back to I did have another suggestion for the Power Ranger for Boom Studios. I was going to suggest Hyperforce. I thought Hyperforce would be cool if they turned that into a comic series. Sam says he would like to see Power Rangers Quantum Continuum. Oh, is that the David Yost story?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool if that was transformed into an animated or a comic book series. As far as would you like to see an animated MCU series in the same 90s universe as X-Men 97? Yeah, sure. I mean, even in watching the cameos in this finale, I found interesting, especially because we definitely go back to that. I remember I called out the Iron Man cameo because Homeboy was literally still rocking the same costume from the Iron Man cartoon series, which I thought was pretty badass that they didn't upgrade that. So that was a great callback. And I also saw a TikTok video recently saying that, and again, if you were a big Spider-Man animated series fan back in the 90s, somebody on TikTok said that X-Men 97 answered, or at least gave us an answer to the finale of the Spider-Man animated series.
Because now we see him with Mary Jane, so implying that he actually does save her, because we never got that answered at the end.
Yeah, because they were saying the animated series, literally the last episode ends on him and Spider-Man and Madam Web searching for Mary Jane in the multiverse or through universes or some shit like that, right?
Yeah.
And
I don't remember exactly, but it was her going missing, basically, through some weird interdimensional thingy.
and so they were saying that clearly this means that, at least according to them, the idea that we see Peter Parker and MJ in here is the answer to he eventually does come to find her at the end of that story. So I thought that was a pretty cool little nod, honestly. And last but not least, Sam, 3 questions here. What do you think about Disney's work on Kingdom Hearts? So what worlds would they be doing? And he gives a link here, and this is from April earlier this year, from the Gamer. Kingdom Hearts adaptation reportedly in the works at Disney. It just says a reliable movie and TV insider has claimed that an adaptation of Kingdom Hearts is currently in the works. It doesn't okay, the insider Daniel RPK says Disney is currently working on some kind of adaptation of Kingdom Hearts, although it's currently unclear whether it's going to be a series or a movie of some kind. This isn't the first time we've heard about them. All the way back in 2020, they suggested that Kingdom Hearts series for Disney Plus was being developed. So I can still see them possibly maybe developing that. How would you feel about that, Stuart? A Kingdom Hearts series?
Dude.
I think it would be incredible.
That would be awesome. Yes, give me that. Much like the Nicolas Cage comment that I made at the very beginning of this show when we were talking about how, like, this is something I really want to see, but it seems too awesome to happen. That's how I feel about a Kingdom Hearts adaptation. And keep in mind, I'm not a Kingdom Hearts fan. I've only ever played the first game, and I never got far in it. But I just love the whole concept of Kingdom Hearts so much that, like, I think it could work very well in any kind of adaptation. Maybe not live action movie, but an adaptation like an animated movie or an animated TV series, I could see it working very well, and it would be incredibly amazing. Not saying this is like a requirement, but it's just one of those things that if they do this, that would be a plus. But if they somehow are able to, like, make the show happen, get like all these, really cool Disney characters in for, like, appearances every episode, how cool would it be if they actually got the same voice actors for a lot of these characters?
That would be incredible. I would absolutely love it. And yeah, I'm on board with you there, man. I would love a television series. Like, I would love a Disney Plus series. I played the first 2, and then after that I kind of fell off. All the reduxes and the remakes, and then I eventually just got so lost I just could not keep up with it anymore. But Kingdom,
like 20 spin-off games before we finally got Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, like I just could not keep up with it anymore, so I just gave it up. But those were some of the most fun games I've had the honor of playing, honestly, and they were just emotionally impactful. I mean, my friend Jonathan literally named his daughter Kyrie based off of Kingdom Hearts, so it definitely had a huge impact on me and some of my friends kind of growing up. So yeah, man, I think I hope that there's certainly still developing it, because it is one that I would love to see. He says, I can't wait for Mortal Kombat 2 next year in 2025, and I would like to see Street Fighter, another live action film as a reboot. Yeah, give me another Street Fighter film, man. I'd be down for that in a heartbeat.
For both, Mortal Kombat 2 and for Street Fighter, I'd be down if they just wanted to make a tournament movie. You know, we don't need to focus on like a plot, a main villain, or anything like that. Just give me a tournament movie where, you know, we don't know who we want to root for. Let the audience decide who they want to win.
And then lastly, he says, news on Ghost Rider. I think Ryan Gosling might be the new Johnny Blaze.
I heard that.
Yeah, I've been hearing a ton of news lately, or at least Ryan Gosling's been really open lately in a lot of his interviews talking about the idea that I want to play Ghost Rider. I would love to be Ghost Rider. According to this article, this is from comicbookmovie.com. He says, however, as we write this, there's still no clear indication that Marvel Studios plans to bring the Spirit of Vengeance back to theaters. It says, asked by John Horowitz about getting the seal of approval from Kevin Feige, the actor says, this was a magical moment. I told Josh I would like to play Ghost Rider. He found Kevin Feige, corners him, does an interview with him. He says, I would like this. All the lights go off. He says, and as for whether there's been any real movement on the front, he says, that towards, he says, I don't know. But I would love it, man. I would love it. I just think Ryan Gosling and I've even seen people suggest him possibly as Nova also as like a Richard Rider, I think would be pretty cool. But give me Ryan Gosling in anything MCU, but I do think him as a Ghost Rider would be incredible, especially after seeing what he was able to do in the movie Drive. If you've ever seen him in that film, I think he would play a biker so incredibly well, and he's just so incredibly talented. He's honestly one of my favorite actors in Hollywood. So I hope this actually comes to fruition.
Fun fact, my film teacher shoved it in our face that Drive is the greatest film ever made. I don't agree with it, but he made some good points. But yeah, that being said, if we get Ryan Gosling as like Johnny Blaze, I still hope we get Norman Reedus then as the OG like cowboy Ghost Rider, because I want to see Norman Reedus in the MCU, and I think like any version of Ghost Rider, well, not any version, but I think him playing a Ghost Rider would be perfect.
Maybe that's something they can kind of explore in like a new Werewolf by Night. I mean, maybe he could be used as like flashbacks to a past Ghost Rider or something.
Yes.
Before we get introduced to a Ryan Gosling one in his own movie, or like a Midnight Sun sort of thing. There's just so many. I think Norman and Ryan are really great choices, and so I do not want to be Kevin Feige in regards to like having to bring people in for casting, or like trying to get them to do these roles and stuff. But whatever they come up with, I'm sure I'll be excited. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Who you would like to see Ryan Gosling, or even who would you like to see play the Ghost Rider? I definitely want to know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. But Stuart, I think that will do it for all of our live viewer questions today, y'all. So thank you everybody who wind up joining us today for all that goodness, and continue to participate with us. So thank you guys so much for that. But next weekend is Memorial Day weekend. I believe that's next weekend, right? Yeah. As of right now, I am scheduled to be out of town. I'm going to be in Houston Friday the 24th, Saturday the 25th, and Sunday the 26th. I will be getting back late that Sunday. So I won't be here for a new episode of Hero Report. We may, in fact, just take off next weekend due to the holiday itself. After that, though, the returning June 2nd weekend, you can definitely expect us back for sure. But if anything, the reason why I'm going to be out of town is I'm going to be providing coverage for Comic Palooza. It's a convention out in Houston. I believe me and Datila from WrestleManiacs podcast and here at A Plus Hero Report, we're actually going to be in the Houston area together. I think the girlfriend and kiddo is going to be coming with us also down to Houston, but we are going to be providing coverage for you guys. So the YouTube channel won't be empty. If anything, definitely follow us on social media. I'm probably going to try and do maybe some live content for you guys from the showroom floor. Maybe we'll do some, hopefully we can land some interviews also. It's been a minute since I've done some interviews, but maybe we can land some cool interviews. Maybe I can get some panel highlights for you guys. That I'm not quite sure. If anything, if I am able to record full panels, maybe that's something that I will provide for like a membership fee, like memberships. If people want to have memberships to Hero Report, maybe we'll add full panels of conventions to that membership level. I don't know how much yet, but if anything, maybe we'll get some highlights on here. Maybe we'll get some brief 2-3 minute snippets for you guys that we can kind of post. But we'll definitely be doing a ton of stuff. But I would definitely highly recommend, if you're not subscribed to the channel and you want to get some of our Comic Palooza coverage, subscribe to our channel here, and especially follow us over on not only Twitter but also Facebook. Facebook is a really big portion of where we post a lot of our news, posters, trailers, and keep you guys up to date all throughout the week. So definitely follow us at A Plus Opinions. Very active over on social media, guys. Stuart, if people want to find you on social media, where can they find you at, man?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Turbos201.
So yeah, don't expect a new episode next week. But again, we will be having content for you guys all weekend long, along with hopefully that week as well, as we continue to drop more and more stuff that we had from our convention coverage. But that'll do it for us here, y'all. We'll definitely see you guys in about 2 weeks or so. But again, follow us over on social media. And thank you guys for your continued support. But until then, do us a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.